we will call the meeting to order. As a reminder, if you'd like to, oh, that's different. We'll go with roll call.
Councilmember Lorimore,
Present.
Councilmember Rigby,
Here.
Councilmember Tassari,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Yao,
Here.
Mayor Plott.
Here. Okay, we had no closed sessions, and so we'll just move to item 5, which will be our invocation, will be led tonight by Bishop Paul Duncan.
Blessing upon this meeting that it may be peaceful, be able to express the thoughts and concerns going on within the community, as well as be professional and be able to speak in a manner that's loving and fair. We ask that God would bless our city council members, our mayor, and our civic leaders, that they continue to make decisions for our city, that they may be led and guided by you, that the decisions made will be of benefit to not only the city, but also the community members. We ask that that would bless those who are in attendance today, that they'll be able to make it home to their families in safety this evening. We seek to pray for humble in the name of Jesus Christ.
Amen. Thank you, Bishop Duncan. Appreciate that. We will now be led by the Pledge of Allegiance by Councilmember Rigby.
Will you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item number 7, additions and revisions. The council may only add an item to the agenda after making a finding that there is a need to take immediate action on the item and that the item came to the attention of the agency subsequent to the posting of the agenda. An action item or an action adding an item to the agenda requires a majority vote of the council. Mark, is there any ESO staff member has requested to add an item?
No, Mayor.
Would there be any item from our council members? Okay, then I'd like to solicit a motion and a second. That's right. Okay, seeing that there's nothing, we'll now move to item 8. Presentations and announcements. So the first one, we're going to be recognizing Jessica Cooper for her certified municipal clerk designation. Jessica, would you like to come to the podium? And then our council members, would you like to come up as well? You do. Hello? Oh, there we go. All right. Our city council would like to recognize our deputy city clerk, Jessica Cooper, on obtaining her certified municipal clerk designation. She's known as the CMC designation, awarded by the International Institute of Municipal Clerks. The IMC grants the CMC designation only to those municipal clerks who complete demanding education requirements and who have a record of significant contributions to their local government community. Obtaining the CMC designation proves that she is well versed in agenda management, records management, elections, transparency, and a variety of other duties the city clerk's office is responsible for. I present this certificate to you on behalf of the city, and we congratulate you on your accomplishments and wish you much continued success with the city of Eastville. I just want to make a couple more just kind of comments. That's not just reading off a dialogue, but we're really big in City Hall just to having the right culture, the right atmosphere that we want, and just good people to work with, people that work hard. And Jessica's been here now for how long? Several years? 4 years. And it's just been if you ever go to chance to meet her or talk to her, she's always walking around working with a smile. Right? And it's very important when you talk about culture and just having the right environment to work in. So, and Jessica, you're definitely wholeheartedly part of that environment and culture that we have at our city hall. So we appreciate it. Joe, would you like to come up here? You know, I did not. I apologize for the flowers. I will send you a nice bouquet. I apologize. I'll take ownership of that one. All right. The City Council is pleased to recognize former Public Safety Commissioner Joe Ward. Joe Ward was instrumental in serving on the city's Public Safety Commission since being appointed by Councilmember Rigby in May 2017 until December 2019, and had an integral part in establishing policy for the safety of Eastville residents. Mr. Ward was involved in providing recommendations on public safety issues such as traffic issues, neighborhood watch, emergency preparedness, and crime prevention. These issues affect the quality of life in Eastville. I would like to convey our gratitude to Joe Ward for his dedication as a member of the Public Safety Commission and express appreciation for his service to our community. Thank you. Todd, Councilmember Rigg, would you want to say a few comments? I know you kind of pointed him, so I figured you might have some more words that you'd like to say.
See what I can do to embarrass them. No. So when this spot opened up, this spot opened up, I knew that I wanted Joe Ward as my appointee. I've worked with him in the past in public safety, and just his leadership ability and the things that he brings to a community is invaluable. And then when he called me a few months ago and he said, "Hey Todd, my work schedule has changed and I can no longer be your appointee on the Public Safety Commission," I was disappointed, but I understand that his work schedule has changed and that it makes it difficult. And his desire was he said to me, "Todd, I just can't make it and I can't commit 100% like I want to." And that's the kind of person that he is. If he can't commit wholeheartedly, he doesn't feel that he's doing the service to the community that he should be. So he asked me and told me that because of his work schedule, he's no longer going to be able to do it. But I just wanted to say thank you so much. This is a job that many times that I know that you would come home from work and probably wouldn't even get to see your family before you're headed off to a meeting. But I appreciate not only you serving, but your family also allowing you to serve. So thank you so much. And just because you're not doing this anymore doesn't mean you aren't going to be around or involved. We appreciate all that you've done and continue to look forward to your help in the community. So thank you, Joe.
The City of Eastville is pleased to proclaim January 18th, 2020 to February 2nd, 2020 as Yoga for Health, Health for Humanity Award period, or awareness period. The City of Eastville recognizes yoga is an ancient process of keeping the human mind and body in good health. The Hindu, you want to say that word for me?
Yeah.
How do you say that one?
Hindu Swayamsevak.
Hindu Swayamsevak, saying, which is known as HSS, is a voluntary nonprofit social and cultural organization which aims at preserving and passing on the ancient Hindu heritage and cultural values to the next generation and raises awareness around the world. The City of Eastville encourages all residents to join me in becoming more aware of the enjoyment and many benefits of yoga. I would like to present this proclamation to Anand Vishnoi from the Eastville Hindu Swayamsevak Sangh, the HSS chapter. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll give you a minute to kind of talk about it. But, you know, one of the things that I think we pride ourselves in, we have a very rich community of Hindu, you know, a lot of Hindus and Sikhs as well in our community. So, you know, when we're talking about, you know, awareness and health and nutrition and anything that kind of goes in there, just mind, body, these are things that we like to promote in our community. And so I thought when you reached out, I said, absolutely, we want to recognize those things. So absolutely. So I'll just give you the mic and you could talk more in depth just a little bit. And kind of
Okay, yeah, thank you. Thank you, Fred. And yeah, myself, Anand Vishnoi. I volunteer the HSS USA, the voluntary non-profit social and cultural organization which promotes Hindu cultural and values such as universal brotherhood and selfless service. So we are conducting actually 18 days, actually like from January 18 to February 2nd, this yoga for health and health for humanity, that is actually SNY, which is actually, it will indicates like 10 easy steps in the postures plus easy breathing techniques, which actually increase in the physical agility and mental calmness. So this will help in all over body, spirit, and mind. So, and we are conducting this throughout the 3-week session in parks in the East Vale and around the East Vale, as well as we are reaching out to schools with their PE teachers. If they allow us, then we will actually do some yoga session there and then make awareness about the benefits about yoga and sun salutation. So that's about it. Thank you. Volunteers.
Yeah, please come on
So,
up.
yeah, you can also join. So we did it actually like together, and we all are doing it together. So I cannot go each and every place, so we are all volunteers. How are you? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And this is for you. That's nothing for you. So what schools? Arts are you?
We will now move to item number 9, public comments. Any member of the public may address the council on items within the council's subject matter jurisdiction, but which are not listed on this agenda during public comments. However, no action may be taken on matters that are not part of the posted agenda. We request comments made on the agenda be made at the time the item is considered and that comments be limited to 3 minutes per person. Please address your comments to the council as a whole and do not engage in dialogue with individual council members, city staff, or members of the audience. Mark, has there been any public comments?
Yes, Mayor, we have 4 comment cards. The first one is for Cynthia Ybarra.
I have 3 minutes. The clock is ticking. The last time I came before the city of Eastville, Clint was mayor. And here we go again, okay? Same topic. So anyway, is this loud enough for you? Is it loud enough for you? Are you sure? Is it loud enough? Let me measure the noise for you. That went off the decibel meter. Way off the decibel meter. Okay. Thank you, Bishop. I'm going to be respectful, but I'm also going to share with you a terrible story. I have a simple math question. How many thousand in 63,000? Wait, is it 63? Per ICMA.org, 2.5 police officers are needed per 1,000 residents on an average to service a city properly. Next question. If 2.5 police officers are required to service the city of Eastville, would that be 126? On average, I'm told we have 4 on duty. Several weeks ago, my neighbor behind me held what I call a rave party. A rave party is when you hire a professional sound person to put this in your backyard, okay? And when you put this in your backyard, and when you put a bunch of drunk people in your backyard, you know what happens? It gets louder and louder and louder and louder and louder and louder. 11:30 in the morning, all day to the night. For the last 10 years, I have 5 homes now around me pulling this BS. I can go on, but I'm none too happy, and I'm going to get very much involved now. I want you to hear what I had to go through, and I'm stage 4 cancer patient right now. I needed my sleep that night because on Monday, I had to go in for a CT PET scan. And let me tell you, that was a horrible experience. You didn't like that noise, did you? The police didn't either when I called. And the police never showed up. That's nothing, my friends. It got louder and louder and louder. Let me tell you about noise torture. They do it at Gitmo.
Thank you, Cynthia. Your time is up. We appreciate that. Lieutenant Martin, would you mind maybe kind of offsite, maybe kind of get kind of the information that she's referring to and kind of her address? And you listed, Mark, does she have her address on there as well? Would you mind?
I spoke to her the last couple of days.
Okay.
These are my medications.
Okay.
It is a matter of life and death. It's my life. Okay? It matters.
Thank you.
Next.
Public comment.
Next public comment is Louise Tassan.
Good evening, Mayor Platt, Mayor Pro Tem Yao, and Eastvale City Council members. Good evening, greetings from Assembly Member Cervantes, and Happy New Year to all of you. The Assembly member wanted me to do a quick legislative update. I will provide the flyers to the back of the room, but a summary of that is that 9 out of 10 of her bills passed the last legislative session, and she brought $16.5 million to the district for a couple of projects at Norco College, as well as a environmental preservation project at Harupa Mountain. We also wanted to let you know that our office is participating in a free dental treatment day with Corona Norco Unified School District and IUTA International that's taking place on January 18th at Auburndale Intermediate School, 8 to 1. This is an event where people can access dental health care. They should not have insurance in order to be serviced, and that is free to people from Eastvale. Also, we wanted to talk to you a little bit about the Real ID. Real ID came into play as a result of the 2005 Patriot Act signed into law by President Bush and co-sponsored by Congressman Ken Calvert. It requires that everybody have a real ID or a federally qualifying document by October 1, 2020. I'll provide some information in the back, but we're trying to alleviate some of the crowds that may occur at DMV next September. We also are encouraging everybody to participate in the point in time count, which is coming up for adults on January 29th at 5:30 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. I'll leave flyers in the back. And also the youth point in time count. Why is that important to Eastvale? Because my understanding is that Eastvale has the highest number of foster youth in the county. And oftentimes research shows that foster youth become homeless. That point in time count takes place January 29th to January 31st from 2 in the afternoon to 8 p.m. in the afternoon. Why should we care about this? Because getting an accurate count equates to resources to address housing homelessness and emergency shelter services and food and health care. So it's we all can be part of the solution. So we're encouraging everybody to participate. Thank you very much and Happy New Year.
Thank you, Louisa.
Next comment card is Ray Hernandez.
Good evening, Council, Mayor. I want to introduce a special guest tonight, a friend of mine. His name is Lloyd Johnson. He's the past mayor of West Covina, current council member, and a mayor for 18 months. Most important, he's a Marine recipient of the Purple Heart. Lloyd, would you stand up? My subject tonight was going to be the elections, but I'm going to forfeit that and just make a brief comment and bid you good night. I just want to say our First Amendment rights, freedom of the press, of speech or religion, assembly to petition the government are woven like the stars in the flag into the fabric. Freedom of speech is not about the speech you agree with, but rather the speech you disagree with. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. And thank you for joining us, Lloyd. Appreciate it.
Final speaker is Michael O'Connor.
Good evening. Happy New Year. I spent from 5:20 to 6:15 tonight, 55 minutes total, doing something that I had planned to do for a while. It was a bit cold tonight to do that, but I sat in a chair at the southeast corner of Orchard Park, which is right along Sumner Avenue, the north side of town, and I took a counter and I counted how many cars were going through that four-way intersection. And I was surprised that 1,357 cars went through that intersection during that 55 minutes. That equates to about 24 cars per minute, which is a lot. My concern and the reason I went out there is that the city of Ontario has recently connected Sumner North up to Haven and then connects over to Ontario Ranch. We're also expecting to see Belgrave continue through and connect over to Archibald. And with that park being there, I've been very concerned for a while about foot traffic that goes across Sumner from the east side of Hamner. And the reason I have that is I have family members that live over there. I'm over there quite a bit. And a few years ago, when I'd take my dogs and walk around Orchard Park, I'd wait until there was no traffic before I'd go with my fairly wild dogs. But I just can't do that anymore. And I did speak to Gina Gibson-Williams not too long ago and asked her to maybe have a traffic study done there. And I think it's probably at a point that we need to consider changing that intersection from a four-way stop to a signaled interchange, or signaled intersection. And when I look and see what we've done around town in other places, Scholar and 68th Street is next to Harada Park, but I think the traffic there is a lot less generally than it is over on Sumner. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention, that I thought that was a lot of cars. I was expecting maybe 1,000, but when I came up to almost 1,400 in just under an hour during specifically rush hour, I thought that was important. While I was there, I saw at least 3 cars just blow through, no slowing down, no stopping. There were 3 pedestrians that tried to cross, or did cross, Sumner from the east side. All 3 of them had interference in the crosswalk, meaning cars had come into the crosswalk, either crossed it or were in it while they were trying to go across. And right now, there's not a lot of foot traffic because it is winter, but when we get to spring, I'm getting really concerned. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. O'Connor. That was the last public comment card, correct?
Yes, Mayor.
We will now move to item number 10, the consent calendar. All matters on the consent calendar are considered routine and are to be approved with one motion unless a council member, staff member, or a member of the public request separate action on a specific item. Mark, has there been any Eastville staff member or any member from the public that has asked to pull an item?
No, Mayor.
Okay. Council members? Okay, seeing none, can we solicit a motion in a second?
So moved. Second.
Mark?
Councilmember Lorimore,
Aye.
Councilmember Rigby,
Aye.
Councilmember Tesari,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Yao,
Yes.
Mayor Plot.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
And as kind of previously mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, we'll be moving now to item 11, public hearing, which is the appeal of the Planning Commission's decision to deny major development review and conditional use permit for the development of a Chevron gas station and convenience store and the sale of beer and wine at Hamner Place. Nina, would you like to present this item?
Council and members of the City Council and Mayor, I just wanted to reaffirm what the Mayor has already said this evening, that the city staff received a request to continue this item to the next available public hearing. And so therefore, it would be appropriate to open the public hearing if anyone is here for that item this evening, and then continue it to the next meeting, which is January 22nd.
And not to close it today.
And
Which was
not to
my
close it
mistake.
today.
I apologize. With that being said, then we'll just continue the open public hearing. We'll actually first go with council if there's any questions to staff before we go to the public comment. Okay. Mark, is there anybody that's pulled in a card for this?
We do have one request to speak from Michael O'Connor.
Mr. O'Connor?
Hi, I did mention at, I think, your last meeting that I knew this would be coming up. I personally have done some community outreach specifically to the first 5 houses on the south side of Mississippi, which are all the houses that will be overlooking the project. I was able to ascertain from that there were 4 residents, or 4 of those homes that were against it, 1 that was neutral on it. I did encourage them to come today, but I had actually not realized it was going to be continued, and I do think it's right to continue it and, you know, see if we can get people here that are going to be impacted directly by that project. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. O'Connor. Is there, just kind of throw it out there, is anybody else from the public would like to speak on this topic? Okay, well, then I'll just move to council again, just for, if there's any further discussion. All right, then we'll solicit a motion to move the public hearing to the January 26th city council meeting.
I move.
January
Nope.
22nd.
What did I say? January 22nd, I apologize.
Second.
Councilmember Lorimore,
Aye.
Councilmember Rigby,
Aye.
Councilmember Tesari,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Yao,
Yes.
Mayor Plot.
Yes,
Motion passes 5-0.
thank you. We'll now move to item 12.1, city council business, which is the contract amendment with paving coatings for the 2019 residential slurry silt project. And Bill, would you mind presenting that to us?
Sure. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council.
This item is regarding a contract amendment with Pavement Coatings for the 2019 Slurry Seal project. The council awarded the contract in July, which included a 10% contingency in the amount of $101,000 during construction. Additional $39,500 was needed due to an omission in the bid quantity calculations, representing an additional amount of $95,000 or most of the contingency. This was not discovered until the project was nearly completed and other contract change orders were issued. Change orders were issued for the 68th Street and Sumner Avenue stop sign, which came to the attention to the city after the contract was out to bid, and Archibald Avenue at River Road median for roadway safety improvements were done out there, and some minor stop signs to assist with traffic management in a few neighborhoods. The additional $39,500 is recommended to come from Measure A fund balance, which is has a current balance of $1.5 million. This mission is not acceptable to the Public Works Department, and additional quality control will be implemented for future projects to ensure this does not occur in the future. On-site staff will conduct quantity checks and a constructability review. This was done, the constructability review was done for Hamner Place, just so you know. Had the mission not been made, we believe that the bid prices would have been $94,000 higher to account for it. So that concludes my report. Be happy to respond to any questions on it.
Council, is there any questions? Sorry, I was gonna say Mayor Rigby. Councilmember Rigby.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, looking at this, we're over the $101,000. Is that what it is, or is it?
No, the original contingency was $101,000. That was awarded as part of the contract. It was available to the contract. So we're over, well, I guess over the original contract by that $101,000 plus $39,534.08.
So what was the $94,000?
The $94,000 was the quantity that was was omitted.
On that specific
On
item?
that, right. So it should have been part of the original contract, the $94,000, if the quantities were estimated correctly.
So that was a contractor that estimated them wrong, or us that
It was
estimated them?
us.
Okay.
But, yeah.
That's all. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any other questions before we go to public comment? Councilman Lorimer.
I'm sorry, there was a but at the end of your comment there. You said that was us, but.
But it won't happen again.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right, thank you.
I do just have one quick question, and this is all Measure A funding.
Yes. Let me just confirm that real quick. Yes.
Thank you. Mark, has there been any public comments on this topic?
Yes, Mayor, we have one request to speak from Michael O'Connor.
Mr. O'Connor.
Didn't hear very much about the little something that was slipped in there regarding 7 new stop signs. I saw that 3 of them are in the same neighborhood, 2 of them are in another neighborhood, and a couple of other random ones. I really think that stop signs are things that we should be talking about here at council. Maybe I'm a little bit oversensitive to it, but I'm directly impacted by one of those stop signs, and I don't understand really why that sign was installed on Bluebell and Peach Blossom. But my thought is that, you know, street signs, streets, we've talked about 68th Street was approved by this council, and that was for adding 2 stop signs, 1 in each direction, making a 3-way stop. You know, why did we put 3 new stop signs into one neighborhood? Not my neighborhood, but, you know, I bring up that kind of question. I live in a development that was built more than 15 years ago, generally, and was completed, built out more than 10 years ago. And why do we have 2 new stop signs that have gone in without any input or discussion from a public setting? There might have been some people that complained about stop signs, traffic, and so on. But I've been watching Peach Blossom for a while. I know that when they did this last slurry project in our neighborhood, they added yellow striped signs down the middle. Before that, there had been a radar thing that was on a, you can tow it, and it had been parked in front of a house for, I think, at least a year. I really thought the city lost it because it had weeds growing up through the pavement underneath it. So that went away before that slurry project. Then the lane was restriped. Then the portable thing came back for a little while, but it didn't stay that long. And then I know the council or somebody had authorized one of those radars that you mount on the street poles, and that went in. And I thought, okay, great. Well, then all of a sudden, that came down and a street sign went up, stop sign on the other direction. So everything I had seen before now was telling me north to northeast on Peach Blossom was the problem, because that's where the radar sign is, that's where the other thing is. But now it's stop sign coming off of Bluebell. I don't know what happened, but I'm not that happy. I think, you guys should really be consulted before we add additional costs to a contract that also impact travel. I know that Councilmember Lorrimore has opinions about stop signs that we shouldn't just be putting in, and hoping everybody else feels the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate that. Bill, would you like to comment on maybe some of those
Yes,
questions?
thank you. So the stop signs were only placed at minor legs of the intersections, just to clarify who has the right of way. According to the vehicle code, at those intersections, you should be stopping anyway. And so it's just another measure to clarify that, to help people to manage their speed in that area.
Thank you. I will make one comment, though, on the mobile radar speed signs. That was brought to us, it was a while, it was about 2 years ago. And the intent of that wasn't to solve the problem. It was to gather data, to collect the data and the efficiency of how fast people are going and what hours. And that is still being used, right, to collect information and collect data throughout various areas. And then to make kind of a sound decision based on the sign that you see now, that's kind of on the pole. And so just want to put maybe some context to that comment as well. I will now turn to my colleagues for discussion. Councilmember Rigby.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On these stop signs, are these all three-way or, let's see. Yeah, are they all three-way stop, or are they just the one that T intersects?
They're only at the minor leg of an intersection, so yeah, they're only stopping what is already required to be stopping per regulation.
So for instance, on Lower Creek, the stop sign is only stopping traffic from Healy Lake and not on Lower Creek?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Thank you.
And I do want to mention, for Peach Blossom with the radar signs, we did collect that data. We did have a meeting, but not very many people showed up for that. So just like to encourage people to show up for these community meetings so we can get some action. Thanks.
Thanks, Bill.
Anybody else would like for discussion or make comment? No? Seeing that there's none, then I'd like to ask for a motion in a second.
I'll move approval.
Second.
Councilmember Lorrimore?
Aye.
Councilmember Rigby?
Aye.
Councilmember Tassari?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Yao?
Yes.
Mayor Plot?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. Well, actually, before we move to item 13, I want to make a comment. Normally, when we would do the workshop, it would be normally an agenda item. I think what we're attempting to do is to create, would be item 15 would normally be the next item. But I think because of the breadth of that discussion, I think, it's more strategically to get through the items 13, 14, and then make the last discussion a workshop, which no decision will be made. It's just a workshop to just strategically go, set some of our goals, evaluate our goals, where we'd like to go. And when you put that against a time frame, it's almost nice to have that as last, so we know that that's the last thing we're going to go through. So if there's any questions as to why, that is simply why. With that being said, we will move to item number 13, city manager report and city staff report.
Good evening, council. The City of Eastville received a Government Finance Officers Association Distinguished Budget Presentation Award for fiscal year 2019-20. Interviews for the finance director treasurer position will begin next week. We got a number of great applications. Applications are still being accepted for the planning manager position. As part of our rebranding, the communications team will be producing a newsletter titled What's New Eastville. This bi-weekly publication will encompass all things Eastville, and in addition to having a new look, will feature more stories about our great city. Sign up to receive What's New Eastville newsletter by visiting our website and clicking on I want to sign up for the e-notification, and the tab then select newsletter option. Eastville East Brew Cafe is now open about 4 doors down from us to the east, right next to the movie theater. They had their soft opening on Monday and are planning a grand opening in the coming weeks. And they serve a lot of farm to fork fresh pastries and sandwiches and soups and salads. And then they have a lot of unique coffees and teas there that are home brewed. Sprouts Farmers Market has broken ground and is expected to open in the summer of 2020, later summer probably. January is the National Blood Donor Month. In collaboration with the Lifestream, we will be hosting a blood drive at City Hall on January 21st from 2 to 7 p.m. When you donate, you will receive a $5 Starbucks gift card to be used at any of our great Starbucks in town. And there are flyers in the back with instructions on how to participate. And City Hall will be closed as a reminder on Monday, January 20th in observation of Martin Luther King Jr. Day. And that's the end of the comments.
Thank you, Brian, for that. We'll now move to item 14, City Council Communications and Committee Reports. And we will start with the League of California Cities.
We're gonna be having a division meeting on Monday, for anybody that can make it. It's coming Monday the 13th. It's gonna be over, I guess over in San Jacinto this time. So you should have an invite for that. And I'll be giving an update at that meeting, so it'll be exciting. The league, so that's the league. SCAG over the holidays been quiet, dark this month. So next month we're going to be having a meeting the first Thursday. That takes place in LA. Sit on the fundraising committee this year for the General Assembly, and next week I'm going to be having a first meeting for that, and I guess at the following meeting I'll report out on that for everybody. And RCTC today, Riverside County Transportation Commission, had a meeting this morning over at the County Administrative Center. The main subject, actually really the only thing that we voted on, was the Western projects, or projects in Riverside County, I should say, for the proposal that will go forward with the ballot measure to increase the sales tax by 0.5 cent. And that's the Measure A tax. Currently we have that in place. This will push this out, and it will be indefinitely, but they presented the project list. There were 4 people that voted against that, and I was one of them, because I do not believe in more taxes. We just had the new state tax come down and through SB1, and just so I voted against it. Also, it should be noted that none of the new projects, although we've been taken care of for the most part, none of the major projects would be directly impacting Eastville along the 15 that were proposed in this study, so, or in this scope of work. So that concludes my report.
Thank you, Clint. And then, like I said, you just addressed SCAG, so I'll check that off. WRCOG.
WRCOG was dark, so we won't have another meeting until the first Monday in February.
All right, RTA. Keith, I'm gonna let you come up if you wanna get I told Keith before I came up, I said, why don't you do the report tonight? So Keith's one of my colleagues with the T Now chapter RTA, and he is well knowledgeable and capable of providing a good RTA report, so I'll let you kind of run the mic with it.
Okay, tomorrow we have our chapter election officers. So we vote tomorrow, it's supposed to be vice chairman, chairman, and secretary. And then also, up in local city hall at 9 a.m. And then also, there's gonna be several route changes. Route 29 is 3-line, which serves Eastville and Corona and Norco. They're gonna be changing times, so whoever rides the bus, make sure you guys get the new ride guide. It starts Sunday. And also commuter routes 204 and 205 will have additional trips during the daytime now to go to Orange County. And then that'll be from Colin Cran Center during the daytime. And on January 17th at UCR, all the T-Now chapters will be gathering for their centerpiece to see who wins. And as you guys know, last year, our T-Now chapter won. And then that will be from 11:30 to 1 p.m. Anybody wishing to go, see Eric in the station, and he can put you on there. And that'll be basically it. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Keith. And just to add that tomorrow we'll also, for our T Now chapter meeting, I currently sit as the chair on that chapter, and then we'll be reorganizing our structure tomorrow and taking a vote on that, so. Yeah. Please come join. We always welcome the public to that. It's at Norco City Hall at 9 a.m. So, Western Community Energy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Today we had a meeting and we voted on a rate structure for WCE, which is going to be launching in April and May. So starting in February, you will start to see some of the notifications going out, just letting everyone know that your new energy purchasing is going to be through WCE. You're still going to receive bills from Edison. So it's kind of it may be confusing at first, but you're only going to receive an Edison bill. WCE is kind of on the back end purchasing the power. It's still being transmitted through SCE. The nice thing that we talked about with our rate structure today is we were promised, or we were trying to shoot for a 2% savings. Doesn't sound like a lot, but when you look at the whole region, it's a large amount. As of right now, we are achieving that 2% savings. And as you're aware, if you're not aware, come April, SCE will be increasing their rate. So our savings will be even greater than the 2%. So just look out for the notices that will be coming via mail regarding the launch of this.
Thank you. Northwest Mosquito Vector Control.
Meetings next week.
Thank you. And RCTC has been done, and so we'll go with the RCA.
We had only one item on the agenda, and that was to choose the new executive director. So the former deputy director, Honey Burness, there we go. Honey Burness is now the new executive director, interim, yes. Well, yes, for a year, yeah. Yeah, so she'll be serving for a year while we are searching for a permanent executive director.
So no animal this time?
Yeah, no, it was all the focus was on Honey.
All right.
Yeah.
I look forward to the next one. We look forward to that. Thank you, Jocelyn.
Thank you.
JCSD Parks Commission.
We have not met. We are meeting later this month.
And then the Finance Committee, I'll take that one. We will be meeting on January 21st at 4:30 and usually meet at the conference room right here at City Hall. So then we'll go to City Council Communications. We'll start at this side and we'll kind of work our way this way.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just want to let everybody know that the Eastvale Kiwanis Club will be hosting a Chinese New Year or lunar celebration on January 18th at River Heights Intermediate School. It'll be going on from 6 to 9 p.m. and we're probably going to have 10 different performing artists there. So it's going to be pretty exciting. So come out and join us. So once again, it's January 18th at River Heights Intermediate. I expect to see the council there. The other thing I have, Mr. Mayor, is I've been getting some complaints about the feral pigs that are tearing up people's yards. I don't know if anybody here has had that happen to them. It's happened to mine once. We had a problem with this several years ago, but it seems to be happening again. I was able to get a hold of a wildlife biologist over at the Department of Fish and Wildlife, and they said they actually will, if you can show that your property's been damaged, they can issue a depredation permit, which would allow you to either hunt or trap pigs on your own property. We're not allowed to discharge or, launch objects in the city of Eastvale, so I was gonna say, you could, maybe do some archery hunting, but,
You can tackle it.
I I wouldn't want to tangle with one of them, but we could have an Eastvale pig roast once a year. So, but no, there's some grant money I understand available through the Department of Agriculture. It used to be that the counties normally engage in a contract with the Department of Agriculture and get some of the grant funds. But unfortunately, the last time they were up for negotiation, Riverside opted out. So Riverside County is not part of that. But the city could contact Department of Agriculture and ask if we would be able to submit for some of that grant funding. So there is some available, and it would allow us to either, we could get a trapper to come in and take care of some of them, or we could come up with some other way of dealing with it. There's really nothing to stop them other than killing them or capturing them. So, and if you do capture them, they put them down anyway. So maybe that would help us, provide the meat for our pig roast. So anyway, I just think they'd be pretty good. But, so anyway, I will pass on some of the contact information for Department of Fish and Wildlife and Department of Agriculture to the city manager. So maybe we can work something out. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
I like the idea of a pig roast. That'd be awesome. Maybe, just speaking of that, maybe if we can also coordinate with JCSD on that, because I would imagine that they would be probably pretty interested in that, is they have damaged some of the parks too. So I don't know if there's an opportunity to partner with that. I just wanted to quickly just address a public comment that was made by Mr. O'Connor regarding the Sumner and Blossom intersection there. If we can, and if my colleagues, with my colleagues' support, if we can just look at not necessarily that intersection, but I'd be more interested at the Belgrave-Sumner intersection, because that's gonna be more of a through street there. And I don't know if we can communicate with Ontario and see if they have any plans of anything there. Because if we do decide to do a light, then if we could partner with the City of Ontario there at that location, then it could possibly save both cities money and also just help with the traffic in that area. So if, with my colleagues' support, to look further into that possibly.
I'd absolutely be in favor of that, especially as that does become a four-way up there, and that will be a main way of travel, absolutely. And I think Ontario, it looks as if they're gonna expand that road out as well, once you get north of Belgrave, so, definitely something to reach out about.
Do we have kind of like consensus on that? Have staff look into that?
We'll look into the conditions of approval for Ontario Ranch, because as homes are being built out there, I'm sure they're conditioned to put a traffic signal there as well. So we'll look into see what it is.
Thank you.
I hope everybody had a great holiday. We had busy New Year's, Christmas celebrations. I had a really fun time. I was invited to go up over into Ontario. We had a rabbi come and give our invocation here a while back, and
went up to celebrate Hanukkah up there, and in fact, they held a Hanukkah parade. I think it's the only one in the country, or maybe even the world. They put the menorahs on top of on top of their cars. It was really cool. Anyway, but other than that, not a whole lot to share. I do agree that maybe we should also look into this pig thing, wild boar. I did some hiking out into the river a little while back, and I wouldn't recommend it in that I had one of these wild boars come after me. Thankfully, I was on the other side of the river at the time, but it was a dry riverbed, though. But he didn't want to come out in the open. But where I exited, I looked back, he came right up to that spot. And anyway, very big. Did some research on it, though. These very fascinating. They're in almost every county in California, non-indigenous to the state, brought over by European settlers for, well, food. They were able to survive the journey, first of all, but they've inbred or bred with domestic livestock as well, so it's changed them over time. But yeah, whenever I go to any NRA events, I always have hunters asking me if we need help taking care of them. So.
Councilmember Yao.
Well, thank you for the species of the month.
I was gonna make a comment. I was literally gonna say this. I was just about to say it.
Right. And speaking of stop sign, I did receive a request a while back. It's not quite the nature of what my colleagues have mentioned, but specifically on Harrison and Hollowbrook Way, the stop sign there, the residents have complained that the stop sign there, it's not visible at night, like it's not reflective anymore. And so people who are not familiar with the area tend to just run through the stop sign. With that being said, I do wonder if this is a standalone issue, or is this just a one stop sign instance, or maybe I don't know if my colleagues think that, there is such need for a review, for an audit of stop signs throughout the city. We could do that as well. But that's the only one that I've heard of, and I'm curious to hear from my colleagues and also from staff in the future, not right now. So that's first. And then second thing, over the holiday season, I received quite a few questions, concerns, comments regarding the PCAR policy / employee spending policy. PCAR policy has been decided in July of when are we? We're in 2020. So July of 2019. In regards to employee spending policy, I know a lot of people were concerned and are concerned on, whether are we using taxpayers' money on employees, whether it's, birthday celebration or holiday celebration. And I know we did mention that we would bring it back in late October or early November, especially because holiday season was coming up. And we all know that we always have an annual celebration at the end. And I was absolutely in favor of bringing it back, considering the timing. But I do want to say that after reviewing the documents, I'm actually very happy to see that this past December at the employee celebration, every single dime, even the meal, the food, the everything, all the costs was donated. A good chunk of it was donated by members of our Eastville Chamber of Commerce, and also donated by our city manager. So it was not. We did not use any taxpayers' money for that. As a matter of fact, correct me if I'm wrong, I think there was leftover that we used as donations to two of our families, our residents who were in need. So I'm actually very pleased to hear that we were able to show appreciation to our employees without spending taxpayers' money. And it was held in the city of Eastville at JCSD facility. So yeah, I just want to address that because I got so many questions over the holiday season regarding that specifically. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Yao. You just have, go ahead, Councilmember Remy.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Yao, just in regards to the stop signs, I think it's one of those things that we have the eCitizen app that I think is a very useful tool. And I think it's not only for stop signs, but it's for, I mean, I used it twice today. Sorry in advance. But it's a very useful tool and it helps our staff to be a lot more efficient. So I think with issues like that, I think it's probably good if we remind our residents to utilize that tool, and those stop signs will get taken care of. Our staff, community enhancement, city or public works is doing a great job with following up with those requests. So that might be one way just right now in the meantime.
Thank you. That's absolutely valid, and I should start using that more frequently.
That's a great point.
Don't use it too much, they'll also get mad at you. I don't know from firsthand experience, but.
All right, I just have 3 quick items to go over real quick. On January 28th, we have our, we started this last year with the chamber, is the business success roundtable. This allows to give us, all our businesses, small, home-based businesses, larger businesses, the ability to come group together at City Hall and talk about things where there's the mayor and a council member that are there, and Councilmember Rigby, where we're able just to discuss just any pertinent items that would help your business be successful in our city. And we want to harness and we want to be able to kind of create that element of success, right? And be able to have, as a business, if you do own a business of some sort in Eastvale, please come and join us. I think we're trying to continue to make this grow, but it's still fairly pretty new. But it's very important, and we want our business here to thrive, because our success is their success, as our city manager always kind of coins that phrase. So we have on the 28th, in of which, please join us for our grand opening of the Little Eastern Cafe on January 16th. And yeah, it'll be a grand opening, so please join us for that. One other last item, and it's more to staff. A while back, Michael Connor made a comment, and I want to see if we can somehow get to this agenda fairly pretty soon, was on the waste management contract, more specifically in regards to the change of the addendum on delinquencies. And if we can bring that item to look at, I know we're going to be going through our waste hauler agreements, but in the midst of that, I think it's still worth us looking at trying to capture delinquencies and to maybe to modify our addendum and to visit that. Is there any clarification on that, or?
It's understood.
Okay.
It was like 3 or 4 years ago that we changed it one way. It was a big overhaul and a big change, and there was a decision why to do it back then, and we can consider going the opposite, going back to what we had before too.
Yeah, just to bring it up and see what
challenges
we
and
want to do with
opportunities
that.
in both directions.
Perfect. No, thank you. I appreciate that. And that is all I have. So at this time, we'll take a 5-minute recess. This will allow staff, because there's, we're gonna have a pretty big item. It's gonna be a lot of brainstorming. Please, we'd love to have feedback and love to have comments. And just basically what we're gonna be doing is putting together our plan for, for this year and for next year. It's the appropriate time to do that and to revisit some of the goals we've already accomplished. So, and that we haven't. So we're gonna allow staff to kind of get the poster boards up, and then we'll recess for 5 minutes and come back. Okay, thank you. Okay, we are gonna get back and resume. Just real quick, just kind of for reference, if there's 2 different comment cards in the back. If you want to fill out a blue comment card, it's to talk, make a public comment. The yellow is if you want to be anonymous and the comment can be read. So just food for thought, whatever you'd like to do. We'll now move to item 15.1, the strategic plan quarterly update and review workshop. So again, we're gonna break this up into 2 areas, right? First will be about just the quarterly update, and then the next will be just kind of the bulk of what we're gonna talk about, what direction we want to go in as a city. So this will be led by Crystal Adams, our senior management analyst. Crystal, the floor is yours.
Thank you, and good evening, Mayor Plott, Mayor Pro Tem Yao, council members and members of the public. Again, I'm Crystal Adams, Senior Management Analyst. So to review, in August 2018, council, members of the public, and staff discussed the strategic plan and set some priority goals for the city. In September of that year, council heard priority goals 1A and 1B, and at the November 14th council meeting, the strategic plan was adopted, along with the 6 target areas that you see on the screen. Since then, staff has provided quarterly updates on the achieved goals. Tonight's presentation is to highlight some of the strategic plan accomplishments that we've achieved since the last quarterly update in September 2019. The plan was broken into 6 main targets: communication and community engagement, public safety, economic development, organizational development, finance and budget, and infrastructure. We further broke down these targets into 3 priority levels: level 1A, level 1B, level 2, and level 3, with a total of 16 goals. So the first one that we're going to talk about today that we've achieved since September, target 2, goal 4, level 1A, enhancing traffic safety enforcement education. Staff participated in the International Walk to School Day at multiple Eastvale schools on October 2nd, 2019. We were out there before school, walking with students to school. And at Eleanor Roosevelt High School, we were greeting students that arrived on campus. Level 1A, target 3, goal 1, elevating dining experience. October 24th through 27th, we had a unique farm-to-table 9-course dinner experience, Cosecha. This 4-day event was held at the Off-Ledge property that the city owns. This event was nearly sold out and had guests from as far away as San Diego, Orange County, and LA. The next Cosecha event will be Valentine's Day weekend, and we're looking forward to hosting another event. Level 1A, target 4, goal 1, to strengthen organizational development and effectiveness. Since September, we have established a catastrophic leave donation policy where staff can donate hours of time to another staff member in a catastrophic need. We selected our 3rd employee of the quarter, which was Jay Alvarado, our Talent and Development Office Specialist. And at the end of the year celebration, we selected our Employee of the Year, Ava Turcola. I love you. Emergency Management Specialist is here tonight. Level 2, target 2, goal 1, enhance community quality of life. We had our Neighborhood Watch celebration that we participated in on October 4th. We implemented a new code enforcement and safety management software. We attended the Coffee with a Cop in October with RSO. We also attended Shop with a Cop and Shop with a Firefighter in December at Target. As far as non-priority goals, we achieved the following. Target 1, goal 4, communication and community engagement. Hopefully you've seen our social media campaign, Did You Know? It's a video campaign where we talk about and highlight some of the Did You Know facts about the city of Eastvale. We also participated in JCSD's Falls Festival in Winter Wonderland, Veterans Day ceremony, and we did a new installation of military banners on Veterans Day weekend. Target number 1, goal 4, communication and community engagement. So Eastvale Cares is a new initiative among staff to help the community in various ways. Twice we've done landscaping cleanup for a resident in need. And for Christmas, we adopted 2 families for the holidays. And it was a great coordination with staff, RSO, CAL FIRE, and Amazon. And we were able to provide a lot of well-needed presents for 2 very important families in our community. Target 5, goal 5, to identify additional revenue opportunities. We have submitted multiple rebate requests to SCE for retrofitting our streetlights, and I anticipate our first rebate check will be presented to the City Council at our next council meeting. Since then, we've also established a permit application fee for residential beekeeping. Target 5, goal 1, to enhance transparency. We just completed our fiscal year 2018-19 audit. We completed audits for Measure A, TDA, TUMF, and MSHCP. We were also ranked as a top city for low-risk fiscal health for fiscal year 16-17. And we have launched our online business registration and renewals through our city website. So, Mayor, Council, this concludes my quarterly update of the strategic plan.
I just wanted to make one modification to that. The Cosecha event will be on February 14th and 15th. It's a Friday, Saturday, not a Thursday, Friday. So I just wanted to correct that.
Thank you, Crystal. Just before we go to the next item, I just kind of to my colleagues is that this again is a lot to go over. And so what Crystal has done is she's put together kind of the outline, and I'm just going to allow Crystal to kind of help control the dialogue so that we don't go on track, so that when we talk about a certain subject, and you guys have been given kind of the outline, when we talk about a particular area, let's talk within those parameters, and then Crystal, you can guide us to go through the next parameters. Just because I think with time, and this could go for a bit, but with time, we want to stay on the topics that we're talking about, and then Crystal can just kind of guide and lead us to the right topics, kind of guide us through. So just maybe look at the item that was sent out and kind of stay within those areas if we can, just for the sake of just being organized, because I could see us going all over the place, since we had like 59, 60 goals when we first did this, so I could see us going everywhere. So let's just, out of respect for Crystal, we can stay on point.
Thank you. So this concludes the quarterly update part of the presentation, and I'm available to answer any questions, if there are any.
Do you want to do public comment now?
Yeah, we can, yeah, absolutely. I forgot we're in two segments. Can we open up for public? I forgot we're in two segments here. Yeah, let's open up for public comment. I apologize.
We do have one comment card from Michael O'Connor.
Mr. O'Connor. I don't think your microphone's on. It doesn't sound like it. I'm gonna start over. You can make sure you get your timer. Battery set. All right, give us a second for some technical difficulties. And then can we reset the 3 minutes as well? Awesome, thank you. We don't cheat you out of that time there.
I appreciate it.
You
I'll
got
try
it.
to be faster than 3, but let's see.
You're good.
For the slides that came through, traffic safety, I'd like to see us really emphasize that and maybe try to take a look at what are our accident rates and how does it apply to different intersections and roadways. I think that that might be interesting, especially in light of what I talked about earlier tonight. The results from the Community Enhancement Safety case management system that was put in place, I'd really like to see that we get metrics on a regular basis out of what's happening in that area. We see things like crime stats and other things that are reported on a regular basis. And I did see one report that came up in one of the committees, public safety probably, that talked about, the number of cases that are open and the turnover. And I think that there should be some emphasis put on that. I really like the Eastvale Cares project. I talked before about a volunteer corps. I'd love to see us maybe emphasize or develop that area further than what we've done before. As far as additional revenue opportunities, I think we, beekeeping, I don't know if that's generated a ton of money for the city yet, but I do see other places that we can be looking at, especially in our registration programs, such as the foreclosure registrations, the rental registrations, and the business registration areas. Those are probably, in my opinion, opportunities that we have as a city to get more revenues in. And then under transparency, I know that there have been a lot of public requests that have come in the past year that have added up to a fair amount of money. But I'd like to see us be able to keep turning those over on a very timely basis, and also maybe getting a little bit more visibility into what those are at your level. Thank you. Less than 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. O'Connor. Was that the only public comment for this section?
Yes, Mayor.
Okay. Then this is just for information, so we can just move to the second item, correct?
Correct. It's
Okay.
Receive and file.
All right. Crystal, would you like to lead us into the second point of our discussion?
All right, let's get into it. So I'll now be presenting on the status of the strategic plan's priority actions that were adopted in 2018. Again, the strategic plan was intended to be a living document subject to updates to council and updates to the plan itself. As we start the new year, and at the request of former Mayor Rigby, seeing fitting to check in now and to give an update on the achievements to date and to revisit the outstanding priority action items. Today's requested action is for council discussion and feedback. Staff will compile this feedback and return to council at a later date with a draft updated strategic plan for council consideration. Here's the timeline of events for the strategic plan. The council held the workshop in August 2018. We've had several meetings about adopting the strategic plan, ultimately with it adoption date November 14th, 2018, and this will be the 4th quarterly update to council. So I was trying to compile a huge matrix of the accomplishments to date, and there's one that's posted on the back, and council has been provided with a matrix out there at the dais. There are also hard copies in the back of the room for anyone in the community that would like to see. This is an abbreviated version of that matrix. Since the adoption of the plan, we've worked on adhering to these plans, and we have completed over 143 accomplishments since November 2018 within the 6 approved targets. We have at least 12 regular ongoing actions that also reflect the targets and the goals of the strategic plan. And again, this slide refers to an abbreviated version of the matrix. We'll also be continuing on with the discussion, and you'll see highlights of where these accomplishments have been made. So in 2018, we interviewed City Council to determine what the priorities were and to get a feel of the pulse of what Council envisions for the City of Eastvale. These were the 7 questions that were asked in August 2018, and then staff revisited the exact same 7 questions in December 2019. So question 1, as a city, what is Eastvale doing well? So as you can see, there's some similar themes here. They're also posted on the walls. I'm not sure if they're quite visible to the public, but in 2018, council had responses, and again, this is an aggregated version of what we received from council. What Eastvale was doing well was attracting businesses, public safety, communicating with residents, doing a lot with a little. And now in December, we have some new responses that include bringing new businesses, such as the hotel that is now in development, checking off boxes of the strategic plan, since we did not have a strategic plan at the time of this interview. We also have less complaints on public safety, and they believe that our code enhancement and safety team are mitigating complaints better than before. The top 5 challenges that the city faces, question 2, council focuses on bringing the right businesses to the community. You'll see a theme throughout these several questions, a lot of economic development focus, which is also related back to the priority goals and to the majority of the goals that we're trying to achieve for the city. December 2019 responses include community engagement, a lack of a substation, and a development of a civic center library. Real property still on there. New businesses focusing on less redundancy. Question 3, what is the one thing that the city must change? A focus in 2018 was determining what the next 20 years would look like in the city, mitigating future drive-throughs, improving economic development, capturing more revenue. In December, we had a lot of the same things here. We want to create the city as an attraction or a destination for others in the region. We want to focus on a 12-year projection, determine whether or not Parks and Recreation oversight is appropriate, CalPERS, and to move forward with growth. What is the one thing that the city can do better? Planning strategically and revisiting the plan, which is exactly what we're doing today. More camera safety and security within the city. And in December, we have civic engagement. Again, public safety. Do we utilize explorers, volunteers, CSOs? And should we focus more on developing relationships with our regional legislative representatives? And to utilize and develop internal processes. For your personal goals, interests, and projects, in 2018, we had Leo property. We had decent restaurants in the nightlife. We wanted the whole atmosphere here. We wanted to help support the Neighborhood Watch program, possibly staffing it with staff in-house. And again, permanent city hall, to find a way for the community to participate. If we have a library and a civic center, should we have a library foundation? In December, we have responses such as a health and wellness area in the city, a law enforcement substation, leveraging Silver Lakes as a sports center for major soccer or sports events, CERT, train and retain. We have Leo property again, and improving communication with the community. For priorities from council in August 2018, we're still strongly focused on economic development in restaurants, diverse housing, workforce developments, bringing decent paying jobs to the city, and starting an ambassador program. In December 2019, we would still like a civic center. We want to focus on public safety and our franchise agreement, possibly playing that into a substation development. We also would like a community champion and leadership program. Those are the responses that we kept hearing from council. And our last question that we interviewed council with was, what does success mean to you? In August 2018, it was achieving and working towards the goals we set. It was to increase the general fund revenue and to create a safe community. in 2019, we want to work, I heard we want to work collaboratively to have a good quality of life with good public safety, measurable movement toward achievement, that we're staffed appropriately, and the Hamner Place completion. So to revisit, we have 6 targets. And at this time, I'd like to ask council if there are any additional items or actions to comment on or to bring to discussion. This will be a common theme throughout tonight. I'm seeking a lot of feedback.
I will turn to my colleagues for any comments or discussions. Should we go to, or do we go to the public first? Or since this is on, and this again, it's a little different than how we're doing it, should we go to public first?
Or you can do that.
Because I know we're not quite done with it. It's gonna kind of go back and forth. We're gonna do a lot of this. Should we do it now or should we wait?
You could ask the public to come up and talk on these 6 topics if there's
Yeah,
something that they
okay.
would like to see in there.
Perfect,
And,
okay.
and then we can listen to this 5 of you.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. Then let's use pull public comment then.
We don't have any pending cards unless
Would
someone
anybody
would
like to speak
come up.
on this? So far, so good? Okay. All right. Well, let's continue.
Okay, let's continue.
All right, then we'll go
Okay.
to discussion, I guess, for our council members.
Mhm.
Okay. Any comments on this so far? Councilmember Rigby.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One of the things that has come up both last year and this year and continues, I think, to be one of our council's top priorities is that of public safety. And I think we've done a great job and we continue to improve. And I'll go back to what discussion we had with Captain Hedge, our previous captain, that he said that, I'm paraphrasing, but something to the extent of he'll never be completely satisfied, even though crime goes down, but he'll never be completely satisfied until crime goes to 0. So he realized that crime will never go to 0, so he said it means that we need to continue to work on it, which I think we believe also as a city, and our current leadership under Lieutenant Martin, I think believes that. But I think that needs to continue to be one of our top priorities is public safety. And within public safety, we've seen an increase in accidents. And I don't mean to put Lieutenant Martin on the spot, but just in public safety, are there any thoughts or anything that you would recommend to us as a council or as our city leadership that we can do in general with public safety and then also specifically with accidents? Because fortunately, our accidents haven't been severe injuries. We've had minor injuries, but we don't want to get to the point that we have those severe injuries because we have. I mean, the numbers, the writing's on the wall. We've seen an increase in accidents.
Okay. If I could just jump in real quick, one of the things that we'd like to do is if council would like us to focus on reducing the collisions that are occurring or the crashes that are occurring in our city, then what we will do is we can also come back. But I don't want to solve the problem from the right here because what I'd like Lieutenant Martin to do is say, hey, we'd like this overarching thing to focus on. Then we'll, just like we did when we did the workshop in August, what we'll do is we'll come back with some recommendations probably in February of, hey, these are some of the things that we could probably tackle or do and go about that way. So if that makes sense.
I guess what I'm asking is I want to make sure that our strategic plan with public safety is on the same page as the Sheriff's Department strategic plan with public safety for our city. So I mean, if there's anything not into the minutia details, but if there's anything large scale that it doesn't have to be, we need to increase traffic patrol by whatever, but just in general, if there's anything in general that can help us to get to those fine details, because I think this is where we start. We look at the big picture, and then we'll come back and we'll go to the small picture. But I think we interviewed the 5 of us, but I don't know that we got any of our fire and I don't mean it bad, and I'm not trying to put anyone on the spot, but it just came to me, but I don't think we got any of them. If public safety is truly going to be one of our top priorities as a council, I think it's important for us to get input from our chief as well as our fire captain as to strategic, big picture, if there's anything that they would see that we continue to look at, or even to input things that are going well. But I think, I don't know, I think I have my colleagues' support, but public safety is one of our biggest things within the city. Without that, I mean, businesses aren't gonna wanna come if we aren't a safe community. Residents aren't gonna wanna stay here if we aren't a safe community. So, I don't know, if there isn't anything that Lieutenant Martin or Chief Tovar have, then we can revisit it. But if there is anything, I think we'd be open to hear any suggestions or any.
No, I think we can continue to work together. I think a big part of that is to continue to educate the public. I know we've done a couple of public service announcements reference some of our collisions. I think if we can continue to do that type of thing, to get the information out to the public on providing them information on where we're having accidents and what these issues are, and ask for their help, I think that would help. I think additional radar trailers and more enforcement and stuff like that we can talk about in a later time. But I think between engineering the streets and education and more enforcement. So.
Anybody would like to? Oh, go ahead. Sorry, I don't know if Chief Tovar, from his standpoint, if he has anything.
We're having this discussion in other communities. It's a driving culture that we're starting to see younger crowds, faster cars, straightaways. It's not like back in the 80s and 90s where, you had a car that could go 0 to 60 in 20 minutes. Now it's like 0 to 60 in 20 seconds. So we're starting to see a lot of accidents from that standpoint, but it's everywhere. It's not just here, our freeways are, every day we're getting fatal traffic collisions, not so much here in the city, but in the intersections, places you wouldn't even think of. So it's just a different culture that we're facing, but as far as the enforcement portion of it, that's where it's gonna start, not from so much our cleanup area, but from his enforcement.
Thank you, and I appreciate that, because once again, those aren't like nitty-gritty details, but that helps us to look at the overall. Maybe we need to look at our infrastructure a little bit more, like as you were talking about, or Lieutenant Martin, as you mentioned, our communication, community engagement stuff, so that helps. So thank you.
Councilmember Young, sorry to put you on the spot. I just knew you wanted to talk next.
Guess I was just snacking on my snacks.
As you should.
Gotta feed two people. I don't mean to put Gail, you on the spot, but I just want to point out that Gail Paulson here, she is the chair of the Friends of the Library. So if you have any comments, because I saw that back in 2018, one of the goals was to establish a foundation, not quite a foundation, but similar in that sense. But and I'm glad to see that that's happening right now under your leadership. And if you need any support from the city council, this is the time.
Yeah, would you mind coming up for just because it's all recorded? No, I'm sorry to put you on the spot. No problem. And then after, if you can fill out a public comment card. Sorry for the semantics.
I want to make sure it's on. I can hear. It took us over 2 months to open a bank account because a lot of banks don't want to do nonprofits. I was a banker, so I talked their language, so we got it opened. And now we're going to be starting some fundraisers, which we will advertise because we definitely want to have a library. All of us support a library, and we will work very hard for it. So you will be hearing about fundraisers that we'll be having. So thank you.
Thank you for that, Gail. And like I said, just as a reminder, make sure to fill out a public comment card if you can. Awesome. Councilmember Lorimer.
Thank you. So I think we're being asked the strategic plan targets, if we want to add anything to that. These seem, at least they seem to work with, I went back through the list and I might have missed some things, but these seem to be encompassing enough that we are able to put the new additions from the 2019 council responses that would fall underneath these in some way. But I'd like to ask staff if they have a similar opinion on that, if that's their understanding.
So I think what we did is we interviewed all of you individually, and your collective responses are up there. And what we're gonna need help from the 5 of you is to have a discussion of which one of those are gonna become priorities. Just like when we originally interviewed you, we came up with like 60 priorities and we narrowed it down to 16. And so we have to identify which one of those things are going to be added to, but most of what is up there in your 2019 interview falls within one of those 6 categories.
Right.
And it's just going to be which of those things are we going to be focusing on.
Okay, all right. Thank
So,
you.
so that providing, so that you can all see what you all shared individually, so that you can have a conversation, because some of those things only came from one person, or some of those things came from all 5 of you.
Gotcha.
But we're not gonna share that.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it. As for the public safety, absolutely top priority. I appreciate the feedback from our professionals, and I would also say that as we as a city continue to grow, as we become a little bit more dense, we are going to see more of these incidents. As you put more people into one place, little accidents are going to happen. We need to be more aware as residents driving, walking, riding bikes, something that we can work to mitigate, but still something that individuals have to take responsibility for. And what was the other thing? I love that the library foundation's in place, even though you said not foundation, but overall foundation. Yes, love it.
Before we go back into public comment, I just have one kind of clarity, Crystal, and just kind of direction. I know when we get to the point of where we want to suggest how we want to prioritize, should we just wait for that to the end of everything? Or should we, I mean, is that a point to bring it up now for discussion, just for clarity for council? Or should we wait till the end for that type of dialogue?
It's up to you. There are opportunities after every priority goal to talk about what's been completed and what's currently outstanding. So if you want to talk about it in that moment, it's up to you.
I think if I got a consensus with council, I think it might be best to wait to the end, and then we can have that discussion, what we should prioritize. You guys agree? Okay. That's it. It was moved to go back into public comment real quick.
We have one speaker, Keith White.
On speaking of public safety, there's a need, and I know he's doing the best he can. So you see the cops out there pulling people over. We have a lot of drivers that just don't pay attention to people who are in wheelchairs or trying to cross the street. And sometimes it takes me 3 times before I can cross the street in a wheelchair. It takes a lot more longer to cross in a wheelchair than walking. And I think public safety, we need to do more work on that. Also, this is just an idea. I know the sheriff's department has done this in the past. Maybe have a decoy out there one day in the crosswalk. See somebody in a wheelchair or something. Try to catch drivers not paying attention and stuff. And maybe they'll get the idea. People who are pedestrians have the right of way in the crosswalks. You know, so that's just something I need to see happen more. So we can put public safety. I feel public safety should be number 1 first on our CV spell list. You know, but like I said, a lot of these young kids now, with driver's license, are constantly speeding down Hamner. They're constantly speeding down Summer. I mean, I've seen in through school zones in Rosebud High School. I'm at the library. I seen the other day, I seen a car going 45 miles down Scholar. And I know there was an accident recently there about 2 months ago. So we need to look into that. But for us people who do not have a car right now, we need to also look out too and be cautious. So that's my concern. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. White. Is there any other further public comments? We won't comment.
We don't have any more blue cards, but we did
We do have a
receive
yellow
one
card
yellow
for
card.
anonymous.
You want me, I can read it.
Yep.
if you like. Can we have a focus group of Eastville community residents, volunteers to help the city in developing ideas surrounding types of businesses to attract, as well as input on the local Leo project / property?
I was making a note. Yeah, I think, Todd, did you want to speak real quick on that?
Not on that, but I did have, just while we're going through public comment, I did have a resident that reached out to me that asked that I share these 3 items. One was just regarding increasing our relationships with partner agencies. Just wanted to make sure that JARPD was included in that. And it made me think of it as we talked about the library foundation, not necessarily a foundation, but whatever you want to call it. Friends of the library. That's what it is. But this person also talked about that too, just saying that would like to see an Eastville Community Foundation back or some sort of volunteer program like that. And then the last thing was regarding JCSD and working with JCSD to make sure that the landscaping is taken care of properly, and that management looks over it and verifies work that's been completed. So that was just a resident that asked that if I share those items.
Thank you. So we want to continue?
Sure, and I wanted to bring to everyone's attention that these are the 6 targets, but this doesn't necessarily reflect the ranking of those targets. That's just how it was adopted. So now we're going to focus on the 4 priority 1A goals. So those 4 goals are enhance traffic safety enforcement education, elevate dining experience, create value-added development, and strengthen organizational development and effectiveness. So these are the goals that were adopted in November of 2018. So for the first priority goal, Council adopted 10 developed actions for this target. So this slide reflects some of the completed actions that result in the time frame that work was completed. So completed actions include increased traffic enforcement. We have an additional motor officer now in February 2018. We did several DUI checkpoints December 2018, March 2019, August 2019, where we had RSO screened over 4,000 vehicles. And these 5 completed actions also partner with the next slide. Here we have, we have 5, actually these are the 5 remaining outstanding actions. So here we need to increase public information on crime statistics. The adopted time frame in the strategic plan says to happen immediately. So the proposed updated timeline would say, this information is currently online now. We can add on to social media by April of 2020. So the 3rd column, you'll see that's the proposed updated time frame that staff has composed. We're open for feedback. We're open for suggestions from council. And ultimately, this information, the feedback we received today, will be taken back by staff, compiled, and then brought back for council consideration at a later date. This is not a determining factor today. We're just having a discussion. So outstanding actions include the crime statistics, education and outreach awareness through city platforms, a walking bus campaign, partnering with Mothers Against Drunk Driving, and community development and education, such as enhancing roadway safety through design and evaluating the connectivity plan. So these are the first priority 1A goal. And jumping to the second priority 1A goal is F for economic development and elevating dining experience. Here, council adopted 8 developed actions. So we have completed 7. Highlights include presence and a networking in the International Council of Shopping Centers, site visits from staff and the ad hoc restaurant committee to engage local restaurant owners to encourage selecting Eastville. We have been successful in some of those recruitments, and we are now excited to welcome some new businesses over at Tony's Chop House, or having a place like Tony's Chop House and Heroes. We identify and market existing center vacancies to prospective retail tenants, brokers, and site selectors. So we have accomplished all of the goals on this page. We have also met with the timeframes that were requested.
One quick comment, kind of going back on the anonymous card. when reading that, I kind of, and I know it was more specific to the Lil property, and I just want to kind of make one comment is, I think definitely that is a, and if I'm translating it, because I think it was somewhat broad, but I think translating it correctly, is that having the type of businesses that, local business or type of business that would be more influential in our community. And I think the Lil, for the most part, I think when we're getting the restaurants and the hotels, and I know it's not just about restaurants, it might be about other things as well. I feel that public comment card, I think we're targeting that through this particular project, the Hamner Place. But I think what it does is ultimately is when we're talking about the Lil property and when that does sell, and it has to sell before we can start having that dialogue. I think the way I kind of look at it is I think the Hamner Place property kind of rolls out the carpet for the Lil project in the sense of this is what we can have. It basically lays the groundwork. We can have these type of restaurants, and if the comment card's referring to restaurants or other types of businesses, but we can have certain different types of businesses as well. And I think that project lays the groundwork for the Lil project to say we can have this type of quality. And again, I'm hoping I'm hitting that comment card, but I was waiting for that to come up to comment on that card. So if it's not, feel free to write another anonymous card to make sure I'm addressing it correctly. But definitely a priority in the cities to have unique businesses, have things that are going to work and be successful. So I hope that kind of answers that, hopefully.
And Mayor, just to share, when the Lil plan or when the Lil property does sell to a developer, we will be doing a lot of community engagement on what that plan would lay out and look like with the community. It'll go through a lot of community meetings. It'll also go through a number of public hearing kind of meetings. And we're also going to be embarking on our general plan, looking out to the 2020 this spring and launching that. And if anybody has any ideas for restaurants or anything like that, they can always call myself or Kimberly Wright or Gina Gibson Williams or anybody at the city and send us an email, call us or whatever and say, hey, we'd really like this restaurant or something like that. And we'll definitely go meet with them and do that. But ultimately, they have to be willing to come to Eastville. So.
I can attest to that, though.
Yeah.
That has been done.
Yes.
So thank you for that comment. Glad you clarified that. Councilmember Rigby.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think to add on to what the city manager said, I think it's not only restaurants. If you have businesses in mind, we're more than happy. I mean, that's especially as the Lil project comes online, Hamner Place, even the station, these businesses. If you have businesses in mind, I think that's kind of a little bit of what that anonymous public comment referred to also, of having a focus group on businesses. If there's any business you have, you know of, you're interested in, feel free to get a hold of any of us, or our city manager, or economic development manager, Kimberly Wright.
Thank you. So the next slide completes the completed actions, working with site selectors to encourage fine culture, artsy dining at applicable project sites, which resulted in recruiting several restaurants to Eastvale. We also developed the business incentive loan program that is also ongoing. So the outstanding action for this particular goal is 1, to possibly develop fee reduction or waivers excluding pass-through fees and possible job creation incentives. So the original time frame just was 2019. We're looking to update and propose fiscal year by 2021. The next goal, economic development, to create value-added development. Council adopted 4 developed actions. The first completed action is to interview shopping center owners, developers, brokers, leading employers, and large sales tax generators to learn more about Eastvale and hopefully to do business in Eastvale. We have learned insight information to help continue to market Eastvale as a destination to conduct business. The time frame is 2019 and ongoing because we will always be looking for new businesses to open up in Eastvale. Outstanding actions to evaluate current practices and policies, such as the materials used, trees, parking lot access and mobility, parking standards, to develop a quality Eastvale design. So we're talking here about like a civic center for people, prosperity and connection, and art in public places. And lastly, to evaluate and to develop tree corridors. The adopted timeframes range from fiscal year 2018-19 through the end of calendar year 2019. The proposed timeline increases these to fiscal year 2021. The public mural, though, will be completed by October 2020, and developing the tree corridors is currently in progress, anticipated 2020-2021. The next priority 1A goal is organizational development. Goal 1, to strengthen organizational development and effectiveness with 7 developed actions that council adopted. We have 3 completed actions: employee training and enrichment, employee attraction, recruitment, and team building. We have additional coaching and training for staff to increase performance, and we also have staff that have utilized the tuition reimbursement program that was launched last year. With employee attraction and recruitment, we have now started utilizing NeoGov, which is an online platform for government jobs, and we have seen increasing number of applicants for our open positions. Whereas before we were only able to utilize our social media, now we're able to reach out to government professionals and to other people looking to seek government professional opportunities. Outstanding actions, we have 4. We need to evaluate staffing levels, implementing systematic department evaluation process, and then there's subcategories to this, so for employee retention, workplace culture, and Eastville Connects or Cares, which was mentioned before is when we service the community in other philanthropic ways. So the adopted timeline ranges from fiscal year 2018-19 to the end of calendar year 2019. The proposed updated timeframe reaches from fiscal year 2021 to Q3 of 2020. As mentioned earlier, the Eastville Connect and Cares, that is currently in progress. On to priority level 1B goals, we have 2: diversify and enhance revenue streams, incentivize new business opportunities. We have 5 developed actions. For the first priority 1B goal, which is diversify and enhance revenue streams, we have 2 completed actions, which was a streetlight acquisition, which resulted in savings from the LED retrofit, and now we're able to fully utilize the poles for city use, such as military banners or other kinds of programming that we want to advertise in the community. We have secured a commitment from our first hotel and broke ground last summer at Hamner Place, and these are the time frames of when we're able to successfully achieve those items. Now, the outstanding items include researching applicable smart city concepts to be implemented within the region, citywide Wi-Fi, and taking TOT measure to ballot for BODO approval. We didn't have a hotel before, so we didn't focus on the TOT, but we're now updating our timeframes from early 2019 to fiscal year 2021 for all 3 items. The next priority 1B goal, which is target 5, finance and budget. Goal 2, incentivize new business opportunities, and council has adopted 4 developed actions. The first action was completed is to leverage assets by purchasing available land. We have purchased both the Off-Lich and Palopolis properties, the Palopolis property being now Hamner Place. That was conducted in 2019. The outstanding actions for this goal include incentivizing new business through reduced fees, utilizing grant writers to procure additional funding for small business owners, and to maintain healthy reserves and balanced budget. So the first 2 had adopted timeframes of 2019, the end of calendar year. The proposed timeline update is, both items are in progress. And we're talking Q3 2021 and Q1 2021. Now, the healthy reserves and balanced budget, that's something that's in progress and ongoing and will be continued. We will have to approve a budget every year, so that's a goal that we will have every year. Priority level 2 goals, we have 4: engage community feedback, enhance community quality of life, increase community connectivity, and build a city hall or a civic center. The first one that we'll be discussing, communication and community engagement, engage community feedback, 4 developed actions. Now, this one was very specific to the community feedback survey, so we have completed all 4 of the developed actions by council. We were able to complete all of these items by the end of February 2019, simply because they were all related back to the feedback study. Releasing the RFP, conducting the satisfaction feedback questionnaire, and then presenting those results to council, which are available both online and in person if anyone would like to come see those. The next goal was target 2, public safety. Goal number 1 was to increase community way of life, and council adopted 3 of developable actions. These outstanding actions, all three are still outstanding, which is to evaluate the staffing needs for public safety officers, to broaden the community policing model, and to possibly utilize code enforcement for community policing. These are the original strategic plan options. This is, code enforcement is now referred to as community enhancement and safety, so that will be one of the updates for the draft strategic plan. The adopted timeline for both of these, for all three of these items, were in 2019, and we're updating the proposed timeframe to include quarter 3 2021 for all three items. Public safety, goal number 3, to increase community connectivity. 3 developed actions. The 3 developed actions are still outstanding. We're talking about evaluating staffing needs. Position would include oversight of the Neighborhood Watch program, CERT training, emergency preparedness, outreach, leadership academy, serving as a liaison between Eastville Fire and Eastville Police, and enhancing community connectiveness, possible Neighborhood Watch oversight, and developing a leadership academy in the city of Eastville. The first, actually all 3 adopted timeframes were for quarter 2, 2019. The first one is in progress. Hopefully we'll finish in quarter 1, 2021. That note for the in progress is we did hire a community enhancement safety manager, which is a position that did not exist before, so that's able to oversee some of these items, and we're hoping to develop that position further into these items. And in progress, Neighborhood Watch oversight staff has been collaborating a lot more with the Neighborhood Watch program, and we're looking to see how that goes. And the Leadership Academy will be in progress, expected to have achieved that academy by quarter 1, 2021. Priority level 2 goal for finance and budget is to build a city hall and civic center. For developed actions, 2 actions have been completed to develop an award-winning budget. Last year, we adopted our budget in May 2019, and in December 2019, we received an award for that. Hopefully, we will continue to do that year after year. And the other action completed was strategic investments to grow revenues. We moved funds from lower interest-bearing state accounts to a portfolio managed by Public Financial Management. The 2 outstanding items are to look into options for bond financing or other means of funding for a new city hall or civic center, and to evaluate other options to finance the new civic center. Our adopted time frame was fiscal year 18-19 through fiscal year 2021. We're going to try to shoot for quarter 1 for 2021. And the second is other options is in progress, and hopefully quarter 2, 2021. Level 3 goals. 4 of them, implementing public safety technology using ALPR cameras, enhancing customer service experience, identifying creative revenue opportunities, and enhancing mobility and connectivity. First priority 3 goal, implementing public safety technology, utilizing the automatic license plate reader technology. We have 5 developed actions. We have completed 2. We have awarded the contract for purchase of equipment, and that was done in December 2018. And the installation of the machines have been on both mobile and fixed locations within the community. Those were installed in March 2019. The remaining outstanding actions are to evaluate the effectiveness of these cameras, to determine if a recommendation of the system should be considered in expanding it to elsewhere in the community, and possibly identifying other public safety technology to be utilized to enhance effectiveness and efficiency of law enforcement and first responders. The original proposed timeframes were between 2019 and 2020. The proposed updates will start quarter 4, 2020 through quarter 3, 2021. The next level 3 goal is organizational development, enhancing customer service experience. There's 1 developed action for this goal. That goal is currently outstanding, talking about a survey or a questionnaire for the community, which could include a kiosk, a touchpad, are you happy or not with your experience at City Hall, an online or an email survey, SurveyMonkey type, Survey Gizmo, a checkbox, or even simple in-house pen and paper survey, are you satisfied with the services you received today? Originally, our time frame was fiscal year 2019-2020. We're shooting for quarter 2, 2021. Level 3 goal, finance and budget target 5. Goal 5, identify creative revenue opportunities. We have 3 developed actions here. 2 completed actions are to think big and outside the box. We're small cell revenue due to our purchase of our streetlights, future TOT revenue, and developing our franchise agreements. We We have completed these purchases. We're reviewing future TOT and the franchise agreement. So that was concluded 2019. It's ongoing. The installation of the ALPR on mobile and fixed locations. Oh, I don't think that was. Target 5 outstanding actions are to diversify property tax to beyond 80% residential for economic stability and to include higher density housing. The adopted timeframe for this is fiscal year 18-19 for future years. The proposed updated timeframe is Q2 2021. And the last priority 3 goal, but the largest, infrastructure. Goal 1, enhanced mobility and connectivity, has 18 developed actions. The completed actions for this particular goal. Let's see how many done. We've completed 6. So here on this first page, we have an RFP for planning environmental design of the extension of the Limonite west of Archibald across Cucamonga Creek. We awarded that contract in May 2019. Participate in Walk to School Day. Staff and members of council participate at various Corona Norco Unified School District schools in October 2019. We submitted active transportation grant fund requests for Scholarway and for Harrison. We were awarded $8.9 million, and that was in 2018. Infrastructure, other completed actions, submitting for grants for the Highway Safety Improvement Grant and for Caltrans Transportation grants. We applied, but unfortunately did not receive the grant funds for this round. Outstanding actions for this item include a community design charrette to evaluate opportunities. Okay, thanks. To enhance people, place, and prosperity through design. Construct Limonite west of Archibald across Cucamonga Creek. I'm sure it's a big priority for a lot of people. Participate in Bike to School Day and implement bike lanes, buffered bike lanes, separated bikeways, trails, paths, and develop a resurface repurpose program. The adopted timeframes for these items varied from Q1 of 2019 through ongoing, and Q2 2021. The proposed updated timeframe for these items now go from Q2 2021 to Q4 2021. Outstanding actions also include reviewing the master trail plan and the bicycle pedestrian school access master plan and update. Do work and coordinate with JCSD to install Class 1 walking and biking trails in existing SCE easements to connect to local parks, shopping, employment, and regional trails. To identify design improvements that may be applied to existing roadways to provide for shaded and inviting walkways and rest areas. The adopted timeframes originally were fiscal year 2019-2020 and updated from Q2 2021 to Q3 2021. Additional outstanding actions: identify opportunities in existing residential developments to create pedestrian access points to connect to main roadways and provide improved access for schools, parks, and shopping. To evaluate key intersections and roadway bottlenecks and develop a strategy for enhancing these locations with new development and grant funding from TUM. The original proposed time frame was fiscal year 2019-2020, updated to Q3 2021. Outstanding actions: evaluate high-speed roadways within the community and identifying design improvements to create safer streets for all and more predictable travel times during peak and off-peak times. Reduce financial liability of safety and enforcement through design, and an Eastville-specific look for major roadways in the city. Evaluate if our roadways are over-designed and if our reserve capacity is facilitating growth in neighboring communities that drive through rather than drive to Eastville or bypassing congestion on freeways. The adopted timeframe for this in the strategic plan was fiscal year 2019-2020. The proposed updated timeframe is Q3 2021. Last slide. Outstanding actions: continue to evaluate the financial liability of our roadways for ongoing maintenance through pavement management to identify ways to be financially prudent with our taxpayer resources. The adopted timeframe is ongoing, and we are in progress and still ongoing with this particular action. So at this point, Mayor, would you like to have the discussion on these items?
Yeah, I think we would. I think we're all probably kind of nodding our head here. We definitely want to talk.
I know that was a lot of information.
No, it's a lot. No, it's very good, very good. I'll actually, before I speak, I'll just defer to my colleagues to kind of engage the conversation. Just by chance, I don't think I saw any public comment cards come up, but was there any by chance?
No, Mayor.
Okay, anybody would like to speak on this portion of this topic? Good? Yeah, come on up and
feel free to, the same thing, fill out a public comment card and you're good to go.
Hi there. It sort of came to my mind that we're talking about Eastville in a bubble here. And I think the thing that really has to be taken into consideration, what is the impact of the Ontario Ranch and the adjoining communities? And on the first 6 items you had listed there, they impacted 2 through 6 on your goals, on your strategic goals. And I think they're going to impact your budget, resources, both the city's resources, policing resources, security, everything. And I think at a very high level, at the 37,000 foot view, we have to take these things into consideration. And it's a double-edged sword in my mind. We got all these people moving in, we can get them here, we can make this the destination, but if they're here, they're driving cars, they're coming here, they're going over to the soccer fields, and it cuts both ways. And I think if we plan properly, we can get them here, manage them, get them back home. And like you said, they want to be safe here, we want them to come into the community, but they're going to impact the community. And all these homes and these farms that are here, well, these in 5 years or whatever, there'll be a lot of people coming over here to go to these white tablecloth restaurants that everybody wants to go to. So I think in the back of our minds, we have to kind of think about that because it's going to impact managing it, and it's going to impact the police and fire and everything else. You build more homes, it's a bigger table to deal with. So just thought I'd throw that out there for consumption. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you for that comment as well, and a great point taken. I'll now, and then make sure to fill out a public comment card if you can. I will turn to my colleagues first, and Councilmember Desari.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I would just piggyback on what the gentleman just said, and he's absolutely correct. And we do think about that, and it is a double-edged sword. So with all that congestion that we're going to get, and the increased crime and car accidents and every other burden that's placed on our infrastructure and our public safety members and our staff, there's also the benefit of, that's why we're focusing on so much on economic development and bringing in the right businesses, because with all that extra humanity that's going to be occupying our space, they're going to bring their tax dollars. They're going to spend. We're going to capture the bleed. So right now we bleed about, correct me if I'm wrong, about 70 million a year of our residents' money is going elsewhere because they're going off to Rancho Cucamonga or Irvine or the beach cities to spend their money. And if we can get the right establishments in here and start keeping people here instead of having them go elsewhere to spend their money, we can hopefully balance taking care of the issues that come up with the increase in revenue that comes in. So it's, and if we look at everything there, they're all intertwined. All of these things go hand in hand, and if we want to have that improved public safety, which I'm a big fan of, is bolstering that, we have to have the money to pay for it. If we don't have the public, if people don't feel safe, they're not going to come here and spend their money. But if we don't have the establishments, we're not going to get them to come here and spend their money so that we can pay for our services. So it's a delicate balance, and that's why we're glad you all are here to help us, because we don't have all the answers. You know, our staff does a great job, and we try to be creative, but it definitely takes the whole community with your input to come up with the right answers and to formulate a plan that's going to be successful for all of us.
Councilmember, sorry, that $70 million is just for restaurants and beverage that is leaking out of our city. There's a lot of other categories that we're also leaking out of our city too. So it's more than just restaurants but the $70 million is just for restaurants. That's why we're
thanks for clarifying.
Focused on restaurants.
It hurts even worse.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Desari. Councilmember Rigby.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, just a couple of quick comments. On slide 69, we talked about the roadways and evaluating if they're over-designed and all that kind of stuff. That's something, and then on 70, the financial liability of our roadways, that's something that I think is going to become crucial, not now, but something that we have to plan for now, and we need to continue to keep it a high priority, because we have other cities around us that have ran into issues with their roadways by not continuing to maintain them and have the finances available for them. So that's something that I just wanted to remind my colleagues as well as our residents, that we need to continue to look at those, if that means that we're financially planning, or if we're repurposing, or whatever we're doing, but we have to look at those, or else we can run into issues down the road, no point intended, but that some of the surrounding cities, they didn't have the finances to take care of their roads. They had to close roads until they were able to maintain them, and I don't want to see us get down into that point. I mean, that's years down the road for us, but if we don't plan for it now, then it's going to affect us then. One of the questions I did have was, I forget what slide it was, but talking about the partnering with MAD. Is there any way, it showed that that was a 2021 timeframe. Well, let me back up a little bit. Thank you, Crystal, for doing this. This is awesome. This is a lot of work. Trying to get the 5 of us, including city staff, on the same page. I don't know how you do it. Great job. Great job with the presentation, putting all this information together. Holy cow. It's amazing. I can't imagine sitting through all 5 interviews and hearing what one council member says and hearing what Todd says and say, whoa, Todd, you're way out in left field. What the heck are you talking about? So great job, Crystal. Thank you for all that you've done with this and putting this together. This is very helpful for us. So
Yes, my pleasure.
Kudos to Crystal on this. With that being said too, thank you to you and staff with managing this properly. The 5 of us sit up here and we aren't involved in the day-to-day operations. We make a list for you and we say, okay, we want it done yesterday. But we don't see the realistic. So thank you for putting these timelines on here and helping us to realize when things realistically can get done. I think it's a lot better for us to understand that rather than for us to put our timelines on and overwhelm staff too much. So, well, and thank you for all of that. We really appreciate it. You've done a great job with this. But the question that I did have was going back to this one here. I don't know if there's a way, because I just think of going back to our public safety being a top priority and the accidents that we have seen continue to rise. If there's any way that we can partner with MAD, if it's getting JCSD involved and having some of these at the parks, or having it at Picnic in the Park this summer, having something in the parking lot there. If there's any way that we can move that up a little bit sooner, and I hope staff feels comfortable with telling us, no, Todd, it's not possible with certain things. We need to understand, we need to hear that too. So if it's not, then just let us know and we figure out what we do from there. But I would like to see this, if we could move it up a little bit. I think it can help us all around with that.
But we did partner with, so while it says we didn't accomplish MAD, that's my oversight, because last, we do the neighborhood, our National Night Out, and we partnered with RSO to bring the MAD trailer out and do an educational thing where they brought the trailer that was in a DUI collision. And when we hosted it in the Target parking lot in 2019, or 2018, one of those. Whenever we hosted it in the parking lot, we had it there, and I think again it was at Silver Lakes for National Night Out. So we have been partnering with MAD in that component, and we also did partner with MAD for the every 15 minutes held at the high school with RSO, and they were out there as well. So there were a couple incidences, but we are where we have partnered with them, but there's more we could be doing.
Awesome, thank you. No, just as long as we have that as, I think that's more of an ongoing rather than completion timeframe kind of thing. So thank you for that. I appreciate that. The other thing that I would like to see is the city hall. I think the city hall, I don't know an appropriate time frame, but I think that's something that I think gives pride to our city, gives pride to our residents, and whatever we can do to continue to work on and expedite that, or at least the initial phase of that in research and looking into the funding, all that kind of stuff. I think that's something that our city deserves. Our city is a city. We aren't just a neighborhood anymore. We're a city, and I think we deserve to have a city hall, a civic center, library, whatever that ends up being. So whatever we can do on that. There was a section that we talked about the acquisition of the streetlights. I think that's an awesome thing. You know that I'm a big proponent of that. That was one of the things that we were all fighting for. But I drove through, I forget where the city was, but I drove through and I noticed that they had their college or their high school students that have committed to colleges, they had banners on their streetlights there. I think that would be something that maybe if we were to try and partner with the high school to do. I think it just, driving through it was awesome just to see. I think it'd be cool to see, oh, my daughter's up there, my daughter's going, as well as for other kids to see that and to see that, hey, you know, we have this whole, especially having Scholar Way, if you were able to put banners all along there of students that have committed to different schools. So now that we have the streetlights, there's a lot more possibilities if we just continue to look into the possibilities with those. So those are the comments that I had right now, and I will, that's all I have right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Rigby. Councilmember Lorimer? Yes, thank you. A lot of hard work has gone into this, and I appreciate also that we are seeing a lot of this being implemented already. That being said, I'd like to add more, because you guys are doing such a good job. Right? Job security. So specifically at this time, I'd like to focus on infrastructure, and there are a couple things in here that I think that we could expand upon. So goal one, the enhancement of mobility and connectivity. Connectivity, I guess, can mean different things, but one in particular as we move forward is through the internet. And there was a while back, I've participated in discussions with the school district and also in partnership with JCSD for ideas were being bandied about to create an umbrella for the city of Eastvale, where we could actually have Wi-Fi across the city. And that can be good for economic development, be good for our students, good for, well, everybody all around. I would like to see something like that if it is something that sounds good to my colleagues up here, added to our priorities and actually sat through a lot of meetings on it. I would like to see movement on that in that direction. And I think that that can be a selling point for us, particularly in economic development, attracting new businesses to our city. And now that we have the streetlights in place, that can help facilitate that as well. So that, one of the great things about our city too is if you look at our general plan, the way that we have it set up, and this was done before I came to the city council, but I would like to expand upon it and utilize what we have in our general plan with having a walkable community and having walkable retail destinations. So examples of opportunities for that could be Hellman and Limonite, Chandler, and also we have an opportunity with the purchase of the Altfleisch property that we can combine that and create a master plan with the Eastvale Community Park, and that we can go through and look at ways to develop that in a coherent manner, that we're thinking ahead, that could be a place where residents there could walk to across the street to an experience rather than having to jump into their car and drive across town to go shopping or to go out. So that, really would like to see us focus and include as part of our strategic plan walkable retail destinations. We have that in a lot of places in the city, but certainly not all. And I know I've heard from residents on the other side of town with Chandler, Hellman Limonite, that's not possible. And maybe we can do that out there as well. Lastly, the comment that was made about Ontario, Ontario Ranch. I know a number of people, and in fact, I see the fire truck from Ontario over parked in front of our Costco all the time. It's great. They're coming and shopping here. And it's actually very interesting. Also, Ontario and Rancho. Costco is right on the border there too, right on right north of 4th Street, and now right across the street. So anyway, sorry Ontario, but so we are benefiting from that. But I would like to see, and I think we can do it with all of our neighbors, part of our communication, but this is not part of the strategic plan, but something that I would like to see moving forward is I have personal relationships with council members from all of our surrounding cities, but formalizing it possibly to create maybe meet twice a year with 2 council members, and particularly with Ontario as we move forward, because that is expanding out. We don't know necessarily everything that they're building over there. They don't know what we're doing. It would be great to have that communication and talk about, because I have a feeling there will be some issues that come up along the way, and having that open line of communication, that dialogue will go a long way in that regard. So those are just some thoughts for now.
Thank you, Councilman Lorimer. Just one quick comment on that. By chance, did you bring up the Costco thing at the Hanukkah parade there in Ontario?
It did come up.
Did it go well?
It did.
Okay, just want to make sure it go well. I was just thinking about that. Councilmember Yao, or Mayor Pro Tem Yao.
I'm not gonna repeat what everyone else has said. Definitely agree with, what everyone else has said, whether it's public safety or shopping center or civic center, library. Definitely, this is why I need to write things down. Pregnancy brain is a real thing. You cannot think properly. Go.
Not a problem. It happens to me all the time, and up here it's happening many times. So, yeah, I have. First off, thank you. And every time we talk about this, I always bring this up because I think it's important. And it started with or at the time, Mayor Lorimore, and really bringing. We've had goals in our city, but they were never tangible goals. They were just goals on paper that you can't solidify goals until you facilitate it properly and you put it into a budget. That's only otherwise it's just wishful thinking. And I felt, I always compliment, at the time, Mayor Lorimore and Councilman Lorimore on being able to put that together back in August of 2018. And then Todd kind of had the idea, at that time, Mayor Rigby having the idea to just evaluate, get progress on those goals, so to see where we're at. So thank you. And thank you to staff, because at the end of the day, we have a very clear direction of what we want to do. And we want, and it's here at these moments where we're just trying to refine things and make things better and really make a, it's an active goal. As things change, goals change, and that's what we're here to do and to kind of prioritize. So thank you. It's good insight. I think this is a way most organizations run in general, and I think sometimes cities don't run that way. And I think it's very clear. I love working under this on this pretense and having these things. So with that being said, I have a few goals that I'd like to see. I'll start with one though. That's really not to be a goal that needs to be written down, but it's to bring up specifically, and it's something more we'll discuss in budget hearings when we get to start planning for our 2021 budget hearing. And that is, we have done some really good investments mostly one-time investments. That's cost. We've done that in the last budget, we've done it in this budget, made some great infrastructural enhancements, right? The medic squad, adding 10 additional hours, things that are public safety related. Also things that try to enhance additional revenues, like the incentivizing restaurants or high-end restaurants to come into Eastville, right? Which we still haven't been able to really fully utilize yet, but it's there. These are things that we have made. When we do that, and also our organizational structure as well, right? And those are not one-time expenses, those are recurring, right? So we have to be more cautious of those things. I would like to see, just kind of put it out there as a tickler though, is to, when you go from year to year making these budgets, it's you look at what you need, you look at it, and then you assess. And I think we've done a lot of good investments, but I think it also might be a time to maybe consider going to build some of the reserves. Last year, we put $5.2 million in our assets by purchasing, you guys saw that, 2 real estate properties. Way better than putting that into just a reserve, right? Those are assets in your balance sheet that helps it grow, and those are awesome. I think this next coming budget year, I think it may be appropriate to consider kind of building a little more into that reserves again. We've done a lot of good spending, and it's all very appropriate spending, and nothing that's out of line. I think it's very, it's what we need, right? It's what we need to invest in our city that hasn't had those investments. So just something to think about. It's not a goal, it's not a plan, but just I say it there as something to look at when we get into budget hearings. So with that, I have four pieces. One's related to economic development. We have an ad hoc committee to negotiate our waste hauler agreement. It's very crucial that, to me, it's very important to get that done. I think it's absolutely, it could be related to City Hall. In some essence, it could be related to a substation, which I'll get to as well. But we need, Waste Management's done a fantastic job. If we decide to use Waste Management, Burtech or whoever else decides to come out to bid, I think what's imperative is that I don't feel like we're getting not even close to the best bang for our buck with our current franchise agreements, and we need to do a better job. And I think we're in a position right now to get the best bang for our buck for our city, and can get a lot of money. And so it's really about enhancing revenues with our franchise agreements. I think that needs to get done this year in 2020. Another thing that could be related to it, possibly, maybe not, but I'd like us to get a substation on the agenda. We really haven't been locked foot and step with Riverside County Sheriff's Department in this thing. We are more locked step foot now in wanting to have a substation here. And I think that's a very good opportunity for us to capitalize on the fact that now we're kind of in sync. We agree to it, and we look to build a substation here in Eastville, which can improve our response times, and possibly, do not quote me on this, but possibly could also bring down our operating expenses. Possibly. You have to do that analysis first. But usually when you can kind of do things internally or do things here, usually the cost that it costs us to operate out of Hooper Valley, more than likely it's going to be more expensive than it would cost us here in Eastville to do it. Possibly. Now, I could be wrong. That's why I'm not putting it out there. But those are things. But at the end of the day, it's the results of having better response times that increases our public safety value in our city, and things that we can do more creative. And it gives us Eastville its brand of more identity in our Eastvilles now that we have our own substation. I like us to look at that again to at least put that on the agenda for a discussion, and then hopefully it's not too cost prohibitive, but there might be ways to fund that, not even through our own. One other thing I put down, and I don't know if, and Brian, this you can kind of guide me if it's appropriate. Because the finding restaurants and hotels, it was such a priority to me prior. We've definitely gone down. We've succeeded and will continue to succeed. I just want us to see us keep seeing that through. Is that something that needs to be prioritized at this point? I mean, we know we're just going to see it through. Do we need to, how does that, I guess, do I need to bring that up, or just my goal would be let's just see that through. I don't know if that's something.
There's no better city to build a business or build a project in than Eastville. We make sure that once you break ground that we're not standing in your way to get the grand opening ribbon cutting done. So we make sure to focus on that, and we're doing everything with all of our current developments projects, whether it's the station, the merge, Hamner Place, First Industrial, a number of other ones that are going on in the city to help them and not have government be an obstacle or hurdle to opening up a business. So as long as you're bringing a high quality design to Eastville that our residents deserve.
I just don't think I need to put that on a priority because we're in progress.
That's
with
part
that.
of our culture.
Okay, it's part of, yeah. And I mean, I can attest to that being in a lot of those meetings. And just kind of the point, you know, when not necessarily the TOT, but when we build more sales tax generation, we talk about infrastructure, you know, sales tax direct, when we get that revenue, that goes to an unrestricted fund that goes in the city. It's our general fund, right? But what a lot of people don't understand is there is kind of a branch to that sales tax generation called Measure A fund. That's through sales tax generation. Measure A fund is how you build your infrastructure. So if we're building better sales tax generation, or you're in essence building your Measure A fund as well to kind of help build some of that infrastructure that pays for the slurry seal projects or stop signs or whatever the case may be, right? So it's very, I look at it as in the Ontario situation is they will come through our city and roads no matter what. It's a neighboring city. You need to capitalize on what we have to provide there and look at it is how we capitalize on that. Because they will utilize the roads. They'll utilize the off-ramps as natural as we use other cities' off-ramps and on-ramps and roads. So we just need to take advantage of that. My last thing that I wanted to bring up, and I know there was the Eastville Leadership Academy, and I can't remember what exactly that alluded to, but there are several cities that have what's basically a leadership program. And what I kind of would like to see, and I've talked about this with Brian a little bit, is to have, you know, reach out to maybe 40, 50 residents to help champion and help really educate and really champion Eastville. And what we can do is we can break this up into, and what some cities do is they break it up into multiple classes. So we'll say, hey, we're going to do a class on budgeting. How does budget work? How do you, most common people and very intelligent people, most common people don't know how that operates and how that works. Well, how powerful more would our city be if if 40 to 50 residents, like a class, would know if they knew about budgeting, and maybe there's another class on our community enhancement and safety team, right, and led by Johnny back there, right, and they can learn about how, you know, and I know we don't like to use this term, but how code enforcement works, right, and what are we doing to improve those things and kind of educate, and then what about community development, right, and Gina could run a class on community development, just different variables, or neighborhood watch, right, and just different variables to educate residents. And I don't think this is something that's even really cost prohibitive. I think it's pretty basic, and we could have, you know, 40, 50 residents of Eastville be better educated on how government works and how different departments of government works. And then, you know, kind of Brian brought up this point at the state of the city, because I'm not going to take full credit for it, but at the state of the city, we can graduate them, right? And that's something we can graduate those residents fully comprehend. And what it does is it just, when I see comments or hear things, I realize that people don't understand, nor should they fully understand, right? But I think having that would help. Have people champion those things. They don't have to take a position, right? It's not about taking a position on what the city. You can still have your opinion, but I think understanding processes, I think, would be very, very helpful. So it's something I'd like to see us through. And I don't know if that's what the Eastville Leadership Academy was into that extent, but it would be something that I think we could rally behind. And I said, I don't think it's going to be too time prohibited either for staff, but I could be wrong if you guys feel that's the case. But those are my items, and I'll leave it at that, and I'll just bounce back to our Mayor Pro Tem.
So actually, piggyback on what you just mentioned along with what Councilmember Lori Moore mentioned about relationship, I think that's the one thing that we could really work on. I think we have a great relationship with businesses, but when it comes to regional, local electeds, I think that's one thing that we could possibly improve upon. For instance, a great example would be the library. When we started talking about the library, we didn't even mention, or I don't remember us mentioning about our county supervisor up until like later when we were visiting Diamond Bar, and Diamond Bar was like, yeah, the county paid for like half of our funding. And that's when we're like, wait, like we should have checked in with the county like right off the bat. And they are operating the library. So that there are pieces like that where I realize, you know, we could be collaborating together and potentially reducing the time and the costs. But I feel like we could do a better job with that. And even with state electeds, actually, someone from Luisa from Assemblymember Sabrina Cervantes' office came up to me and asked me about the whole pig situation, the wild boar situation. And she said, you know, depending on the agencies, they might have funding for that instead of us discussing about that, about, you know, roasting the pig or whatever it is. But I think, but also it's both ways. You know, it's not just us, but it's also, I do think that it is both ways. Perhaps we can set up some sort of meeting on a regular basis or something like of that sort, to improve upon those relationships. And I know we did, like, for instance, I believe some of us met with Congressman Ken Calvert last year regarding USPS, postal office. So that, I think, consistently, like, just doing that, I think that will be great. And of course, you know, we have our social guy here who knows everyone in the region, so yeah, it's an asset. So that, and then second thing, I don't think I saw it on any of the slides, but housing, I feel like it's something that it's gonna come up. That's the reality of the state that we live in. We don't really have much affordable housing or senior housing or any of that sort. And it's unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you see it, it's, you know, that's the reality, and we need to start thinking about that as well. So, and also actually going back to relationship with schools, that's something that when I did the principal for a day, a lot, actually quite a few of students came up to me and said, you know, we want to be more involved in the process. Like, we want to learn about city council. We want to be, you know, they even suggested a youth advisory committee. And the principal actually was telling me that, you know, students are eager to learn about the city hall, how it works, how government works. And I think that's really important because, as we might have noticed, a lot of folks, after they go off to college, they don't come back. They don't come back because a lot of times they feel like they don't have that connection with the city, and they would rather go to like bigger cities. And it's really important, in my opinion, to have that connection with your local community, local city, so that, you know, you could come back and give back to your city and your community.
Councilmember Rigby. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think that youth or ambassador program or whatever, I think that's awesome. I think that would be so good for our community to do. As Mayor Pro Tem Yao and Mayor Plott mentioned, it was one of our goals, or one of our priorities that we mentioned in 2018, and we're carrying on to 2019. But I think it's crucial to involve the youth in those. I think it just gives them a good opportunity to learn more and to become involved in the community. I also agree that I think the relationship aspect is crucial. I think we have tried to work on that and continue to work on that. That's something I know that with the supervisor's office, she's done an excellent job in reaching out and making sure that our relationship is good. And I hope that we can do that with our other elected officials in the area, because I think those relationships are crucial and we need their help with different things. So I think any of us that have any ways to reach out to those relationships would be great, because those will come in handy, and it's just good to have those relationships. A couple of things that I was just thinking about too, just adding, not to add to our list too much, but or one quick thing before I get to that. Mayor Plott talked about the substation. I think part of the substation too, it brings more, it can possibly bring more community involvement, more volunteers, more youth involved in that, with having something right here in our city rather than having to go to Jurupa Valley and things like that. So I think that's a great aspect too. One of the things that we've talked about, and Mayor Pro Tem Yao, touched upon it a little bit, that we've been meeting with Congressman Calvert about the USPS. It's something that I think is in the back of our mind and we're constantly thinking about, but we don't have it up on our strategy. And I think it's crucial that we do, is that of a zip code. I think that's something that needs to be a focus for us as a city. There are so many reasons that that's important. One, it gives identity, but it also affects our insurance rates. It affects your insurance availability. So there's a lot of impacts because of just that simple zip code. As we're going into the census right now, I know Congressman Calvert tried to introduce legislation to get that zip code to us sooner, but it hasn't quite had the support to get it to that point. But the time to reevaluate the zip codes is right now around the census time, after the census is done. So I think that's something that we need to look at and add to our strategic plan, that we work with the congressman's office or whoever that we need to make sure that that happens during this time, that we do not get left out of that.
You mind if I jump in on
Oh,
that
go ahead.
comment real quick and I'll continue? Correct me if I'm wrong, because when we had this meeting, and Todd, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think after the census is done, Congress then evaluates all zip codes in the preceding year. So in essence, 2021 would be the time they start actually evaluating and approving zip codes. Is that correct? That's the way I understood our conversation.
Yes, about then. I don't know the exact time, but I think it's something that we need to be working on now. We need to be working with the congressman's office to say, hey, that when this evaluation happens, what do we need to do to make sure that it's going to happen? Because I would hate for us to say, hey, it's going to be an automatic thing once the census and Congress evaluates, and then all of a sudden we get left out of it. So I think it's something that we just continue to. Well, it's not only the congressman, but it's also, we need to work that into our census. We need to help residents realize that that's another important process of the census, is the whole zip code. So I think zip code needs to be part of our strategic plan, and within that we have different things that help that. The census, meeting with Congressman Calvert, and then whatever else his office recommends. But I think that's something that we really need to focus on this next year, to be ready for that being a possibility for our city. A couple other quick things we had on our priorities. We had talking about JCSD and the Parks and Rec. Just as a reminder, Director Rick Welch retired about a year and a half, possibly almost 2 years ago now. But that position hasn't been filled. I don't know if there's some sort of partnership that we can do with JCSD, with the parks, if there's some sort of liaison position that we help to, that we almost create a director of parks and rec within the city that helps to be a liaison with JCSD to help them manage that, or what we do. But I don't know. This is always a touchy subject. I don't know that the timing's right for us to dive into the parks and rec too deeply, but it may be the right time for us to increase that partnership with the management of the parks and rec. So I don't know, that's just a suggestion of mine. I'd like to see us maybe look a little bit more into that. That was something that came up in 2018. It's again up there on 2019. So I think it's something that we may need to move up, not necessarily to dive too deep, but just to evaluate what can we do to help with the Parks and Rec side. Looking at infrastructure, we have a couple of areas that within the infrastructure that I'd like to see if we can focus on. One is, and I think this is an ongoing one, but we have a lot of areas in Eastville that you drive in. I want to make sure that we have a nice community you drive through and you're like, wow, I'm in Eastville. This looks beautiful. I like this. And some of those areas that I think you drive into some cities and you see that they have medians, they have trees that are grown over, that just make it just that nice neighborhood feel. I'd like to see us have that in Eastville. And I think we can do that along kind of the Limonite corridor area. And there's some issues that we have with that, but I just want to see if we can make that, and I know it's an ongoing thing that Public Works and staff are working on right now, but I would like to see us continue to evaluate what we need to do to make that happen. There's some areas that need to be still completed that they're looking at, but just to make sure that we are, once again, that's an ongoing thing also that we're just continuing to look at. But I think it would be important for us to have that on our strategic plan too, because those are Those are important. If Limonite's our main intersection, if it's gonna lead us from the 15 freeway into Chino, it's important that we make sure that that whole roadway looks and represents Eastville in the right way. With that being said too, we have another area that is a gateway into Eastville, and that's Cantu Galliano. Unfortunately, for one reason or another, there wasn't the funding when that was built for the landscaping there. If the station continues to do what it's doing, that area there, that, especially with Ontario Ranch, that is gonna be another great gateway into the city of Eastville. I was teasing with a resident that she was saying, hey, what can we do about the tumbleweeds there? And I said, hey, that's just part of our landscaping there. You don't like it? But it is a reality there that you get off the freeway there and the first thing you see in Eastville is weeds and tumbleweeds. Well, no, if you're coming south. Yeah, exactly. But I don't know. I was thinking, and I talked with our city manager a little bit. I don't know if that's something that, once again, going back to what we were talking about with our relationships with our elected officials, but if we work with Assemblymember Cervantes' office, Senator Roth's office, Supervisor Spiegel's office, to see, because that's going to be a big project. But if we do something to see what we can do to get funding for that, because coming down the 15 freeway, that is going to be our gateway. Yes, Limonite is great. It's a new intersection or a new off-ramp. It's going to be a great landscaped area, but I think we also need to focus on Cantu Galliano and what we can do to start looking at funding for that, to get that to look and match Limonite area. I think it'd be amazing that when you're coming down the 15 freeway that everyone knows that, hey, Eastville is off of Cantu Galliano and Limonite, where those two beautiful off-ramps are at. So maybe if we can add that to our strategic plan of trying to see what we can do on funding for that.
If I could check.
Councilmember Lorimer.
We can make that part of our discussions with Ontario, because that's really gonna be their exit over there.
There we go. Things just seem to sync together. It's perfect. All right. All right, is there any other discussion? Councilmember Lorimer. Or sorry, Councilmember, sorry, it's starting to get late. I'm sorry.
Well, I'm not that handsome.
Yeah, I knew this coming, yeah. That's pretty good, pretty good.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, I did notice that, our timelines, obviously, we're shifting them further back. You guys have a lot on your plate, and it's impossible to accomplish all of them in the time frame that we were hoping for. But we also need to remember, although we're making all these recommendations, none of which I disagree with, and adding this to your plate, there's also some mandates that are going to be coming from Sacramento that's going to be putting additional burdens on our staff. In particular, the big one is the housing element. So there are things that we have to do that we don't really have a choice, and they're going to have to be prioritized. So we just have to remember that whenever we're wondering why certain things aren't getting done as quickly as we wish. And I agree with you, Mr. Mayor, on the zip code. I don't think anything's going to happen until 2021. And just to get back to the substation, that's also something I would really like to see happen. And I would like for us to explore including a emergency operations center component when we do make a plan. And the main reason is we can extract some money out of the fire fund, I believe, that might help offset the cost, since that's obviously that's a fund that we can't use it for anything but fire related. But you got a problem, chief, I know. But it would be a good way for us to be able to kill two birds with one stone. We need an emergency operations center, and if we can incorporate that into any plan that we do when we develop one for a substation, we got to explore being able to utilize some of the fire fund money. So that's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Councilmember Rigby.
Sorry, it just came to me, just thinking, I would like to see if we can come back maybe the next time that we have, if we do another workshop like this or a follow-up workshop, staff's recommendations on this, because I think a lot of the time council's up here and we see from a different perspective. I'd love to see staff's perspective. So I don't know if in a staff meeting you guys can kind of go through a similar practice and then come back to council and say, hey, you know what, Todd, that recommendation that you have is way out there. We want to do this, and so we recommend this. But I think it would be important for us to get on the same page with staff and to hear from staff as to what their recommendations and what they believe would be high priority things to do. I think that would help us to kind of mix the two and find a common ground there.
Yeah, we did sit down with the management team and talk about the timeframes. When we originally did this in fall of 2018, we were pretty ambitious with the goals that we set for ourselves. And, if we would have set the goals too low, we could have patted our back and said we accomplished everything 100%. I'm more than impressed with what we accomplished in the last year and a half or so since we did the first workshop. We way exceeded our expectations, and we had some pretty high expectations. But the old saying, if you shoot for the moon and miss, you land amongst the stars. I think we have, as a team, really landed amongst the stars with this strategic plan over the last 18 months. We have knocked a lot of things out of the park, checked a lot of boxes, accomplished a lot of things. And we also had some unrealistic expectations of ourselves that we put on ourselves that it maybe overwhelmed us a little bit because we still have to do the day-to-day operations of the city. And so, but as we're doing the day-to-day operations, we're taking advantage and leveraging all of these strategic plans and folding them in to that effort. And so we did sit down with the management team and review those schedules and timeframes of when we could probably get to things and how we could get to things, including understanding the state mandate stuff that's coming down. And we're going to fold that housing element into the general plan update as part of the general plan update that you guys have put into the budget from last year. And we will definitely sit down as a management team and take all the information that you've said, because we've been taking diligent notes of everything you've been saying here tonight. And just like we did from the August 2018, then we're going to sit down with the management team and put these things, and we'll bring it back to you probably in February to say, hey, we heard you. This is how we feel about it. Are we putting it in about, and then are there any ideas that we should be also adding to that table to help you accomplish your goals? So we're gonna do that. That's kind of what I was saying earlier of, hey, we want these big ideas from you guys, and we'll go and try to figure out these goals and objectives, and when we come back to you, are these goals and objectives accomplishing your big ideas? And that's what I was meaning earlier. And so Crystal's been the ring leader on this, the Three Ring Circus, she's been doing a great job of bringing this all together and putting this into a manageable document. I mean, that swim lane thing up there is just impressive. And when she first put it together, she put it on an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, and I'm like, it's 3-point font because we have so much stuff on it. I'm like, can we put it on 11 by 17 at least, so that I don't lose my sight? And then when we blew it up, it's still pretty hard to. It's not even at 8-point font when we're blowing it up on a bigger sheet. So, we've accomplished a lot. But we're not going to sit back and pat ourselves too much on the back, because we still have a lot to do to serve our residents and businesses in Eastville and all of you. So we're pretty excited about all of that. So we're at a real neat inflection point, I would say, in Eastville, where we're embarking on the 10-year incorporation and our 10-year birthday celebration. And with this general plan update, we're going to be asking, what do we want to be when we're 30? And we're going to be really doing a lot of community engagement, participation, and we're hoping this is where an opportunity for the entire community to have their fingerprints on helping design and create the Eastville of tomorrow. And then we have that as our blueprint to do that. So we're pretty excited about that effort as well. And so, yes, we will be, over the next few weeks, we'll be working in the management meetings to wrangle and Russell, with all these comments that you guys have shared here. If there's anything in particular that's really standing out that it's like, hey, this needs to be on the 1A or 1B thing, you know, it's sounding like the police substation is one of those things. It's sounding like the Civic Center library funding strategy and design could be on one of those things to evaluate that. It's sounding like renegotiating the franchise agreements with the solid waste haulers is on there. I'm hearing move up the leadership academy, and maybe even having a teen leadership academy with the high school, or a youth advisory group, or a community advisory group of some sort. And I'm trying to think, maybe.
Relationships with local legislative officials.
Oh, well, yeah. Oh, and on that, on local legislative officials, Supervisor Karen Spiegel, when she heard we were doing a public art mural, was really excited about that. And I think she reached out to, was it Councilmember Tassari? She ran into him at Western Riverside COG or something and said, you know, we have grant funding for that. And it was due 2 days later. And Joe called me and said, how do we get this grant submitted in 2 days? We submitted the grant, we hand delivered it to her office 2 days later, and I think she gave us a couple $1,000 or $2,500 towards our art mural public. So, I mean, that's the collaboration that's going on. Karen Spiegel's office, Supervisor Spiegel's office, and her staff are doing an amazing job reaching out to us. They come to all of our chamber events, and we see them in the city quite a bit. She's doing a great job serving us.
Thank you, Brian, for that. Councilman Lord, you have one more comment possibly? Yep.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was listening to Brian's recap, and over by him there is a picture of the river that goes right by us here on our southern border, and taking advantage of what we already have. Assets like this river, which we actually don't use as an asset at this point. You can see it from up above here, but going back to what I was talking about earlier with infrastructure, and I would like to have a time in the future, not now, but where we can talk about looking at these sorts of things, where we capitalize on some of those assets that we already have in place, and what we as a council have as a vision for the undeveloped areas in Eastvale. And so that corner there between Scholar Way, down Citrus, over to Silver Lakes, I want to reiterate, I truly believe there's an opportunity there, a huge opportunity, if we're to put a master plan over the top of that, or but I think it's something that collectively we can come up with a great idea, or ideas that will come to fruition, and really enhance our community in an area that we haven't been thinking about critically, some of these assets that we have in place. So and the river, that's one of them. Having access to that, and figuring out what we can do, if we can't do anything with it because of different restrictions, who owns it, who doesn't own it, whether it's protected, all these different things. But figuring that out, I think, would be helpful. Having an opportunity to sit down collectively, brainstorm together, I think I would like that, and I think it could be helpful throughout the city. Thank you.
And Councilmember Lormore, to that point, maybe it would be good for me to reach out to General Manager Chris Birch from JCSD, since they're part of that Eastvale Community Park, and see if there's an opportunity for us to have a joint meeting between the council and the board of directors for JCSD, to see if there's maybe an MOU or a development agreement or a collaboration because I know there's also been some concerns over some of the maintenance of that park in its current state, and how Silver Lakes could be or could not be using it to its fullest potential and whatnot. So I think maybe there are some ways to help enhance the maintenance and operations through some funding operations if we do some joint things. And so I'll reach out to General Manager Chris Birch on that. See if we can bring the two bodies together.
Thank you, Councilman Lormore. And another point too is that, I mean, part of that, it's a little more east, but part of that Alphaville property too could be utilized to access that river too that we own, so. Perfect. Well, thank you for.
Well, part of that off-Litch and between there and Bill Van Leeuwen's is an access road down into the Eastville Community Park 2 that we still need to create and construct. But it might also create an opportunity to put an overflow parking for like the Desi House or the off-Litch property down into the flood basin down there that serves the Desi House, so that when they have more major events that we could service that and bring the parking down there and keep it out of the neighborhood. So maybe that's a way to help out the Desi House operations.
I think what you're saying and what Councilmember Lormore is saying is pretty visionary as far as utilizing that value, that resource that's there that isn't currently being utilized. So, all right, I think we might have exhausted everything, every point. Everyone feels good on what they have. Council has enough direction.
I thought we were going till 11.
I know, we're pretty good, pretty good. I will say this, and according to me, there are certain mandates, there are, certain mandates. I think council understands that if you were to put these goals and objectives and put into a document, that document's a living document, that it does change according to certain pressures that we might have to go through and might utilize our time. I think we're all in an understanding of that pretense, so. I would be remiss though, I was just thinking about this, I'd be remiss to say, if we did do that Eastville Leadership Program, Johnny would teach a class and Amanda would teach a class on budget and Gina teach a class on community development. I mean, it would be appropriate that our city manager would teach a class on sock selection, because I think that's part of success. It would, I think it'd be very appropriate, so just kidding, Brian. You and your team do a phenomenal job, and I really sincerely want to tell you that your team and yourself, you guys do a phenomenal job in executing the vision and the goals that the residents, that the council has put together, through getting information, through getting data, to figure out where do we need to go to and to continue that. So it's very appropriate. We appreciate all the work and effort that you guys do.
Mayor Plott, I have the best looking socks on today, and they were a Christmas gift. And they're actually a picture of the entire council.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
They were custom socks.
Oh my goodness. All right. Oh, one more comment.
Just the last comment that I have is just to reiterate what the mayor was saying. Thank you to our staff for doing this. This is a lot of work, putting all this together and going through all this information and organizing it, and everyone being involved in putting their input. But then also thank you to the residents for their input tonight, as well as the input that they've shared with us throughout the months. Continue to share that input. Like the mayor said, there's a living document, so we need your input. We need to know about what's happening in your specific neighborhood, what you want to see in general within the city. So thank you to the residents for being here. Thank you for your input. Thank you for the input that you've given tonight, in the past. So thank you to the residents also.
Do we feel good, just to want to make clarity, do we feel good with the staff? You feel good with all the information received up here? Is there any clarity that needs to be done before we adjourn? Crystal, I guess it's staff, but I think it works. Do you feel good,
No,
enough content?
I think there's enough feedback here that we can come back and comprise some kind of draft version of the new prioritized, including the new objectives that were provided tonight. I think we'll have that by the end of February for discussion or consideration by council.
Perfect. All right, I feel good about this year. It's exciting, so absolutely. So we will adjourn the meeting. Our next meeting will be January 22nd, not the 26th, like I mentioned earlier, the 22nd, 6:30 here at Chamber Hall. So thank you again, appreciate it.